Hello, everyone, and welcome to our huge and massive mega election night. We've got a ton of elections today. We've got three main ones from three countries in the EU. We've got, of course, Lambertus, our expert on everything that's, Europe, but also Germany, because again, our German expert has decided to drink beer and watch the live stream instead of participate. But Lambertus, hello to you.
Hi, Paul. I'm Paul. Definitely, yeah. Our German channel manager will make it on at some point, but I will have to be the German expert for today.
It's great to have. We've also got a Slovenian expert for the Slovenian election, which we will introduce shortly. His name is Till. He is our Discord manager, part of the team, and he knows everything about Slovenia, which is a country that I know very little about. I don't know about you, Lambertus, but I know basically nothing.
I know nothing about Slovenia. So for us, we can talk all day about France and Germany, but Slovenia I know very little about. But Till, he's going to take it on at 9 o'clock. I think he's coming on. So it's going to be a long live stream, but he knows a lot about Slovenia. And there is a lot of controversy, man. Jesus, but we'll get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an expert. But I wanted to first ask you, Lambertus, because we already have the results for Germany, or at least we have a preliminary set of results that I'm sure you know a lot about. They're always first and more efficient. The French results will be at 8 p.m. As that's actually a law. But so I want to start with you, Lambertus. Firstly, I want to ask, where are the elections taking place?
So I'm just reading the chat, and some people are saying there's an echo. Is there an echo? So if there's no echo, please let us know, because then we'll continue. Otherwise, okay, audio is okay. Perfect. So Germany first. So Germany as a whole country didn't have an election, man. It was just a province in Germany. And if you look at, for the people that are watching us live and not just listening, you can see here that Germany has quite a lot of elections going on this year. 5 actually. Which are for their Bundesländer. So for people that don't know, Germany is a federal system. So that means you have the parliament at the top, the Bundestag, and the chancellor. And then below it, you have these 16 Länder, states, you can call them. And they each have their own elections with their own parliament, their own government, their own coalitions, their own minister president. So yeah, all of those positions there. And we've had one this year already, which was Baden-Württemberg. I mean, we did a live stream on that poll. And today, Rhineland-Pfalz went to the polls, which is, if you're looking at our screen, you can see them right here. Rhineland-Pfalz in the west of Germany, kind of like the southwest of Germany. And the results are already in, Paul. It's actually quite interesting what happened. Quite interesting. Have you looked at the results yet?
I have, but I don't know how to interpret them as well as you, Lambertus. But so what are the results? I mean, and firstly, I guess just as a quick reminder, most people who will be on the live stream know what each party is, but if you could give us a quick reminder of the main players, especially for Rhineland-Pfalz.
Rhineland-Pfalz.
Pfalz. Okay.
Rhineland-Pfalz. Yeah.
Lambertus had to say it to me in an American accent, which I'm kind of ashamed for. But I've got
Rhineland-Pfalz. Rhineland-Pfalz, I think. Yeah. Yeah, sure, man. Sure. Let's look into the players. So I'm gonna go all these. So basically, these are the 6 candidates that really ran in Rhineland-Pfalz. So again, this is a province in Germany. And the 2 big players, I'm not going to go through everyone, but the 2 big players really were the SPD. So Alexander Schweitzer from the SPD. I think you know the SPD, the Social Democrats here in Germany. And we also had Gordon Schnieder from the CDU. Those 2 were really the main players going against each other. They were polling quite similarly. I think the CDU was only a couple percentage in front right before the election. And of course, in the bottom right here, you can see the AfD candidate, Jan Bollinger. He was also predicted to do very well, high in the polls, I think around 18 to 20%, if I'm not mistaken. Also doing very well, and the others a lot less well. So the FDP were fighting to get into the actual parliament, and Rebecca Ruppert from the Linke also fighting to get into the parliament. And the Greens, well, they're trying to get into a coalition with the SPD. So they're hoping that the SPD wins, because the outgoing position for this province is the SPD, the Greens, and the FDP. A traffic light coalition was the one that was running the province. Now, why are we looking at German provinces? I think I should say this because, man, this has big impact on the German federal level. It really does. And this result today really does. And I'll get into all of that in a minute. Any questions on that, Paul, before I go right into the results?
I mean, just as a comment, I guess I would say, every single one of those are in West Germany, and And I guess, I mean, from an international level, I know the less interesting part or the most interesting part is about the SPD and the CDU and the interaction between the two. But I find as well the rise of the AFD in Western Germany, especially, to be really quite concerning. I guess that's what a lot of people outside of Germany will be most concerned about.
I mean, again, this election, you'll see in the results, the AFD used to be a party in the East, and that's where they got their support. And Western Germany, it wasn't really a thing until very recently. We saw the election in Baden-Württemberg, that's the southwest of Germany, a province, and the AFD did very well there only a month ago. So it'll be very interesting to see how they did in this province too, because this is a proper Western province. I keep saying province, but I should be saying Bundesland, I guess.
Bundesland, I understand province a bit better, but I guess we can look at the results now, or should we go into a little bit as well what the key election issues were for this province? I know the last one was all about industry. What about this time?
Yeah, so I don't really want to get too deep into like what they were fighting for, because we want to go on a higher level. What does it mean for Germany and what does it mean for Europe? But really the big issue again, and let me show you the province again. So 1 second. So if you can look here's the province. So Rheinland-Pfalz in the bottom left. It's all, again, about industry. And the main industry here is like chemical industry. I think there's the BASF. It's a big chemical company who is moving their plant over to China now. And there's lots of small companies reliant on them. So that's a big, massive issue. There's also Boehringer Ingelheim and BioNTech, I think, that are both also in that state in Germany.
Massive
companies. Lots of, exactly. Massive companies, big jobs, but it's not going so well. These countries are suffering from energy costs, and they're kind of, pissing off, sadly, a lot of them to moving to China, So very disappointing. And a lot of it was around competitiveness, with all of the parties showing different ways of fixing it. Just to give you some figures, for example, 80% of the voters saw competitiveness as the main issue that they were voting for. And 8%, they've seen an 8% industry loss in the province and 16% rise in insolvency in the province or in the state. So big issues.
I guess they're all parts of what is called the industrial belt of Europe, right? That's kind of the heart of the industry, European industry. When I look at, I'm going to try Rhineland-Pfalz and Baden-Württemberg and everything that's in Belgium, northern France, it's really the heart of the European industry. And especially with the situation in Iran, voters are not going to be happy about the decreased competitivity and probably the increase in inflation. So I mean, I'm not surprised at all that competitivity is up there as the concern. Not at all.
But go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, actually. I mean, I'm just wanting to mention that this is the second election this year. You can see there's 3 more. And this one's so important for the CDU and SPD too, because the next elections in Sachsen-Anhalt and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern in the top right, these are strongholds for the AFD, right? Oh, really strongholds. So this is like a feel-good election. It should be for the big parties in power to kind of move on and move forward with their
easy mode, right? Easy mode. It's supposed to be. I don't know what the results are now. Well, we'll see in a second, I guess.
Supposed to be, yeah. Should we look at the results, man? Should we have a look at the results?
I'm interested. I'm sure the chat they're asking for it, so I'm sure they want to know.
Yeah, I mean, you can already look it up, of course, but I just copied the results. This was at 1850. So again, these are not the final results. This is the actual count up of 1850. So these could change, but considering the differences are quite stark between different parties, it doesn't look like the leader's going to change. And let's go through them one by one. So the SPD is currently at 26.4% and has lost 9.3% from the last election, which was 5 years ago. The CDU is at 30.7%, gained 3%. The Greens lost 1% to 8.3%. The AFD's got 20%, so they gained 11.7%. I mean, we'll talk about it. The FDP's got 2%. They lost 3.5%. And this is crucial. In Germany, you need over 5% hurdle to get into the parliament. So the FDP will not make it into the state parliament. The Freie Wähler, 3.7%. They're not going to make it in either. And the Linke, they, again, just missed it with a 0.5%. You can exactly the same thing happened a month ago. So they will not get into the parliament in Rheinland-Pfalz. So, man...
These are crazy results, but I just want to ask, these are not the final ones, right? Maybe these can move a little bit.
Plus minus 1% to 2%. That's normal. I don't see these, and I will look again in a minute if anything's changed, but I don't see these changing much. And please, if there's Germans in the chat, let us know if there is changes. It's crazy. Paul, what's the first thing that gives you like a wow moment?
Well, for me, as someone who's international, the AFD 20% is crazy for me, especially in a Western province, in a rich province. I mean, I remember last time you told me they were one of the top most richest provinces in Germany. So rich province, which is Western, getting 20% of the AFD. You know, what's it going to be for Eastern Germany? And the second big thing is SPD getting destroyed, which, talking personally, is fantastic news.
For you, is that fantastic news?
I mean,
it depends what way you lean, right? So for me, this is not good news because it makes Germany. Let me say it again. It makes the German coalition at Bundes level, at the federal level, weaker. Right, it really does. And I'm going to get into this a little bit, but the SPD got destroyed only 3 weeks ago in Baden-Württemberg, which is another state, right? They dropped from 11% to 5.5%, but it's not really their state anyway. But the SPD has ruled Rhineland-Pfalz, this province, this state, for 35 years. They were the top, right? Mm-hmm. Now seeing them drop by almost 10% and losing out against the CDU, which means that they won't be able to set the minister president for this province or for this state, I mean, honestly, it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, this is the coalition that's supposed to be in power, losing 9.3% for the SPD. I mean, what happened there? Why have they lost 9.3%?
Yeah. So, for example, I'm just looking at the chat. So, Hip Hop Guru 85 said this is worse for the SPD than a loss would have been for the CDU. He's exactly right. I completely agree with that. A CDU would not have been happy with a loss. Obviously, who's happy with a loss, right? But the CDU, I think, can manage it and can take it better than the SPD. I think the SPD is a little bit more in crisis mode than the CDU, who are also in a bit of a crisis mode, right? But yeah. Why are they so low? That was your question, right?
That's my question. I've got a follow up after that, but yeah, first I want to know 9.3%, and if I look at the percentages, right? If you look at the AFD, they have a plus 11%, and the SPD minus 9%. It almost seems to me like they moved to the AFD. Is that what's happening, or maybe is it SPD moving to CDU, CDU to AFD? What's going on over there?
Partly. So I'm just showing now, again, for people that are not watching, what I'm showing on the screen, it's in German, so let me explain it. It's basically saying, okay, does the politics or the actions that the federal level SPD is taking, do they influence do they hurt the SPD locally in Rhineland-Pfalz? So basically, in other words, are you voting against the SPD potentially because of what's happening on the federal level? And 54% said it hurts. So I think the main reason people are not voting SPD in Rhineland-Pfalz is not because they don't like the candidates in Rhineland-Pfalz, who was actually very popular and very well liked. It is actually because they were not happy with the SPD on the federal level, right? So that's the big reason. And why they don't like it on the federal level, I think there's a whole lot of reasons that we talked about last time. But I think the main thing comes down to 2 points, really. I think point number one, there's not enough change happening or reform happening quick enough, not in the slightest. And a lot of SPD voters, and again, if you're an SPD voter in the chat, let us know. They also feel that the SPD is giving in too much to the CDU, which is funny because the CDU thinks the same thing about the SPD. The CDU voters, some of them think the same thing about the CDU giving too much to the SPD. So it's a bit of a mess.
But I remember we made a video on this, Lambertus. We were talking exactly this, right? So this is the consistent strategy of the cordon sanitaire, where these parties try to rally to create an anti-AFD or an anti-extremist coalition. And time again, we see that fragmentation and splintering happens, because obviously a party that is on the right allying themselves with a party that is on the left is just not going to be a recipe for anything good, right? I mean, if I think back to this, for example, in France, if you have parties that are too broad of a coalition, they're not able to satisfy the mandate of their voters, and then obviously they get punished at the polls for the next election. And is that what's happening this time?
But that's politics, right? That's how politics works. If you are in a democratic system, especially proportional representation, right, then there's not a winner takes all system. A system here is you have to build coalitions. It doesn't work any other way, right? So the CDU had to build one with the SPD on the federal level, which they did. And then, you have to compromise the SPD and the CDU. And I think I know if you're a left or right wing voter and you're compromising, if you're a left wing voter to the right, it hurts. But I don't see another way, right? The right has to compromise to the left and the left to the right if you have those two parties.
Yeah,
and that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening.
Yeah. And that's not what's happening. Yeah, I mean, I see that time and time again. You even see it on the European level, right? With the EPPs frequently going to parties that are on the right, to try and get some of their policies, especially that are maybe more right wing, through. So it's not anything new. But then I want to go back now to my other question, right? Which was, the SPD took a loss of almost 10%.
Yeah.
But the AFD seems to have gotten all these voters back. So
yeah.
So SPD to AFD, is that even possible?
It is surprisingly a thing. And let me show you this. So this I thought was super interesting here. So this is basically showing people who voted AFD. Where did they come from? Okay. And it shows, of course, the 35%. So most people that voted AFD, 35%, they voted AFD last time. That's what it's saying here. But out of the other parties, 18% of people that didn't vote before, so basically no voters who didn't bother showing up for a vote, they went from nothing to AFD. So that's massive. So a lot of non-voters went to vote, right? And then here the SPD, I mean, the CDU is next at 16%, which is also quite high. But the SPD, a center-left party, that you have 11% of the people that voted AFD coming from the SPD is quite high.
That's kind of crazy. Why?
It makes no sense. Ideologically, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
If you ask me, but what do I know?
I want to ask. No, but it makes no sense too. But we've seen that in France as well, actually. SPD for me is, or traditionally, correct me if I'm wrong, I know less about German politics, but it used to be a party for the workers, right? And since they've been against the workers, we had this discussion last time, a lot of SPD bashing, but since they've been a lot less for the workers. And when I look at, the AFD, and when I look at what they're talking about, they're always talking about the worker. They're talking about, minimum wage people who have everyday people.
The AFD, I mean. The AFD,
the AFD,
right?
exactly. Yeah. They're talking about issues for the everyday. Here, non-voters, 18%. I think that speaks volumes. People who don't necessarily care about politics, but who care now because maybe their situation is getting worse. Is that why they're moving to the AFD? Is that even possible, even though it's so far away? Is that why?
Yeah, I think it's partly why. But I had a really interesting conversation with one of my German friends yesterday, right? And he's a typical CDU voter. Yeah, he votes CDU like his entire life. And he was saying yesterday to me, "Look, man, I might actually go for AFD at some point." I'm like, "What?" Right? And he's like, "Yeah, man, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Just give it. They can't get anything done up there." I mean, he's not really into politics, right? So that's important to know. Nothing's really happening up there. So I want chaos. That's literally what he said. And he's a smart guy, right? Smart guy. I mean, at least I thought he was smart. but he was a smart guy. He's like, I want chaos. I want something new. And who knows? We haven't tried the AFD yet. Let's give it a shot. Let's try it. That's how we talked. And I think a lot more people are also like that, where the worker, like you mentioned, who typically always voted SPD, is now like, well, obviously nothing's happening really. And the SPD seems more concerned with people on minimum wage or like on benefits than with me. And the AFD is something new. Let's try it. I think something like that could work.
Yeah, I've actually seen that a lot, and this is a recurring theme, I think. Just going to the chat very, very quickly, we have European Union Enjoyer. Thank you very much for your 25 PLN. I think that's about a little bit above €6. Thank you very, very much. He says, party abandons main voter base, and main voter base don't vote for the party anymore. And then he invokes the shocked Pikachu face meme. So I guess that's exactly what we're saying here, right? People that are from the CDU, people that are voting for the CDU, people that are voting for the SPD who want to see these politics happen, ally with the polar opposite, get nothing done and create frustration. And so they go to the extremist parties. And I think you're absolutely right. European Enjoyer, that is what's happening.
Yeah. And then here there's Koise, M. Koise, he mentioned this chaos thing is such bullshit. I mean, I understand it. For me, I would never vote that way either. I would always look at what my interests are and what European interests are and vote that way. That would be my approach. But if you're seeing for years, I'm just imagining that for years, you're seeing your salary is stagnant, right? You can't hardly afford your rent. You're not really saving anything for pension. And then you're also noticing that the government can't pay your pension in the future. And then, I mean, someone moves in next door who's on benefits and can do more than you, even if it's not true, even if just the idea is that, the imagery, I mean, then maybe that's why they go to AFD, and they'd rather vote for chaos, because chaos might be more beneficial than now. You never know. I don't know. That's maybe the thinking behind it.
No, it's crazy, but I want to move back. So AFD is very talked about, so I want to move back to what this says about SPD, CDU. We're talking about the dynamics between the two. I guess the dynamic has shifted now, right? I mean, will they go back into an alliance together? I mean, will the traffic lights coalition still be a thing, or will they have to go into an alliance with the CDU potentially?
So the traffic light coalition for Rhineland-Pfalz, which used to be the SPD, the Greens, and FDP, is dead. That will not go. For the government of Rhineland-Pfalz, here you can see how it could look like. It will be a grand coalition, most likely. The CDU will work with the SPD, and a CDU minister or minister president will run the province, right? And here, I can show you very quickly. That's this guy. Oh, I can't. Wait, sorry. Here you go. Gordon Schneider in the middle. He will be the next minister president of Rhineland-Pfalz.
Okay.
Yeah. And Alexander Schweitzer, who was actually quite popular, he lost, and he was the previous minister and the minister president, and now he's out. Right. Yeah.
I know a bit less about this, but I'm looking. If I look back to here, right? So if would you mind going back to the seat distribution? I saw very briefly that CDU plus AFD. That's very close to.
It's enough.
It's enough, right?
Yeah, it's enough, but that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. No.
Okay.
They already ruled that out. So there's not going to be a CDU AFD. The Brandmauer in German, or the Cordon Sanitaire in French, I guess, is very much still standing. Yeah.
I guess that's quite a good thing. For what I believe personally, but I wonder if that will cause the same thing that's been causing all these issues in the first place. The Cordon Sanitaire just seems to create more problems than it seems to solve.
I mean, that's a whole discussion on itself, right? But I think at some point, and I think this is something we need to talk about later in the year, when the eastern states go to vote, there's no way around working with the AFD. Sadly, there isn't, because the AFD is so big that they might win outright, which is crazy, right? That they will have a majority in parliament without working in coalition. That's the first thing that could happen. And if they get not a majority, but close to majority, then what's going to happen? Does the CDU have to work with the left, the SPD, and the Greens all together just to keep the AFD out? I mean, that's not going to create good policy either, because the majority, like so many people vote center right to right, and they get a left government. It doesn't work. So I think these are key questions we need to ask ourselves later this year.
That's a very frightening situation to be in. Yeah. I have a question or a statement from the chat. Blue Hands says, if you want chaos and memes, vote D Party, not AFD. Lambertus, what is D Party? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
It's a smaller one. I think it's in the other top. You see the very bottom right. It says andere. So I don't even think they don't even have enough to get into parliament at all, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
So
just want to mention that from the chat, but yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I mean, here I'm just looking up quickly. I'd said Party for Work, Animals, and Basic Democracy. It's a satirical party, apparently. Satirical. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. But let's not get into that. I don't think that's that interesting.
But I'm also surprised by the FDP losing 3.5%. This is the end of the FDP, right? I mean, it's done for them. Nationally, they're being destroyed. 2% is a terrible score, no?
I don't understand, though, because they literally... Okay, so it's a terrible score. It's terrible. They're out of the parliament here, and they're out of the parliament in the other state that we did a month ago, the Baden-Württemberg. So, yeah, it's a very bad result for them. No liberals in the parliament here either, and I think they need to really question their leadership. Yeah, they do, because they had Lindner. He was the Christian Lindner. He was the previous leader. He was quite charismatic. He got the party all the way from similar results like this, like 10, 15 years ago, all the way to like 10 or 12% in not the last election, but the election before that. He got into government with liberals, and he worked with the SPD and the Greens, messed up pretty badly with broken promises. I don't want to get into it too deeply, but he didn't do a great job, and then lost so hard in the election last year. And then they replaced Lindner with a guy called Christian Dörr, and he's just It's just the same stuff. It's not anything revolutionary. So I think they made loads of mistakes, is what I'm trying to say. And they need new leadership, if you ask me, to really try to get out of the rut that they're in.
And I want to move. I want to move now to Europe as well. What does this mean for Europe, right? Like I know it's a very local election. We know we're talking about the litmus test for Germany. But what do these results actually mean for Europe itself? I mean, long term, I can see the trend, but what about the immediate to medium term?
Obviously, a state election or state policies in Germany is not going to matter on a European level. No, but what does matter and really matters is how this will affect the ruling coalition at the top in Germany. And let me just like show you what I mean. So for example, here you got like the key players in Germany at the moment. Everyone knows Friedrich Merz, right? He's the top left here. He's the chancellor of Germany. He's the party leader of the CDU. He's the guy running Germany as a country. But of course, the CDU has a coalition with the SPD. And the main guy in the SPD is Lars Klingbeil, right? He's the vice chancellor, so he's basically the second-hand man for Merz. He's also the finance minister. And he's one of the two party leaders of the SPD. The other party leader of the SPD is Barbel Baas. She's also the minister for labor, and she's the second party leader for the SPD, right?
I heard you like her, Lambertus, Barbel Baas.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, I have my personal opinions here. So I think Lars Klingbeil is quite pragmatic. He sits more in the center when it comes to the SPD politicians, not so much to the left. And Barbel Baas is kind of the opposite, right? I don't think she's that pragmatic. At least that's my personal opinion. And she sits more towards the left. So she kind of represents the left wing of the SPD party, while Lars Klingbeil kind of represents the middle. And this is why this is a problem. This is why the SPD result is such a problem. Because now what will happen is people will start asking questions about SPD leadership. Right? So what does that mean? That means that Lars Klingbeil, I don't think he's probably not going to lose his job yet, but if stuff like this continues, he will eventually maybe lose his job, right? Or even Barbel Baas or both, who knows? Or like a new party leader, I mean, right? So for example, Lars Klingbeil can stay as vice chancellor, finance minister potentially, but maybe a new party leader or other people. Anyway, something might change. And my big worry is that the new Lars Klingbeil will be even further away from the CDU positions.
Right.
Go back to SPD pure. Right. So, and I think that's a problem. I think Lars Klingbeil seems to be getting along pretty well with Merz. They have like a meeting like every week or 2 weeks, and they seem to be aligned that they need to reform. They seem to be aligned on that things need to happen. So I think them two can work it out. And I think it would have been great this election, as much as I have my frustrations with the SPD, if the SPD actually won it, because that would give Lars Klingbeil more power and potentially, make things more solid in the coalition. Well, now it just makes it weaker and it increases the chance that the German coalition will fall by the end of the year. Right? That's what I mean. That's what will impact Europe, because like it or not, Merz foreign policy, he's stronger than a lot of leaders that we have at the moment. So if we have Germany again on zero for like another year because there's elections and blah, 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 and you never know who will win then, I think that's terrible. So that's why this election is not good news, if you ask me, for Europe, because we need a solid SPD in the German coalition. That's my opinion.
I see. But and is that alliance really at risk? I mean, so if they have a solid alliance now, if you have someone that's even maybe that goes a bit more left, that goes further away from the CDU positions, you could end up, I mean, from what I know, you could end up in a situation where the CDU just really can't get anything through. And then they might do, I remember the migration reform, which they voted with the AFD. Might that be at risk of happening again? And if that happens again, could we look at a potential, a splintering of the coalition? And what does that mean? Does that mean there'll be new negotiations, new federal elections, or is that too far?
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, again, I would still say the chances are that they will survive rather than fall. That's still more percentage in that camp, because I don't know what the alternative is. But I do think this state election has not helped the coalition, right? And I think here, I'm seeing some chat here. What was it here? It went too far and quick. Okay, I can't find it anymore. But basically, the problem of this on this level is, for example, I mean, let me just take an example. You have Merz and Klingbeil, they might sort something out, right? They might be like, okay, look, we need to both compromise. So, for example, the big issues in Germany are pensions that need to be reformed, healthcare needs to be reformed, and basically we have a problem with our budget. We've got more. We need to spend more the next couple of years to pay for all the pensions and stuff like that. So those are the main problems. Merz and Klingbeil, they'll probably agree on a cool package, a package where both compromise. That means the CDU has to accept more taxes, wherever that is, and the SPD will have to cut social programs. That will be the compromise. The problem is now when that goes down a level, or when that goes to Barbel Bas. Barbel Bas has already said publicly, we're not going to cut any social programs. No way, right? And at the same time, Söder, the next player in this game, right? Söder from the CSU has already said, we are not going to strike any public holidays. We are not going to do anything to increase taxes, and basically drawing some very, very hard lines.
Right.
And this is the big issue that this coalition has. Like, I think Klingbeil and Merz, they're prepared to work with each other and compromise. I just think the next level, Söder and Barbel Bas are not. And I think that's the problem.
I see. Yeah. So it's all about the players now. Even though you have these parties with these ideologies and these alliances, who actually has control over that alliance is really going to affect the whole relationship and therefore the whole coalition journey. That's really interesting. It's not the same at all in many countries in Europe. Yeah. And I mean, so now you've given us this quite good prognosis. What's most likely to happen now? Is all eyes on the next election, or what's the idea now? You know, what's the next step?
Yeah, the next step now is basically this election's over. The next election isn't until September. Now there's no excuses for this coalition to go on reform. So now to come up with proposals.
But what can they come up with?
Well, that's
sorry, it's almost my reaction. But what can they come up with? Like they seem to agree on very few things.
Man, I need to show you something actually. If I can find it quickly. Here, let me have a look. That's France. We're gonna go to look here. Look at this here. So you'll love this. You're a finance guy. It's a bit small, but here, have a look at this. So this is Germany's budget, right? It's here, 524 billion in 2026. The biggest part of the budget, 37.6%, right, goes to Arbeit, which is work, and social. So what do I mean? So if I click on that, so imagine more than a third of the budget is gone on this. If you click on that, let's go there. Look at that. 71% of the entire budget for social stuff goes to, guess, pensions.
Pensions. My God.
And it's only going to grow. It's only going to grow.
Oh, that's a disaster. That's a disaster.
So they're literally out of 500 billion, they're spending 140 billion on pensions. And the worst part is that that's on top of the insurance we're already paying. So we're paying pension insurance, and that's literally just, you know, and then I just give that already. Automatically, it's going to be given to the pensioners. And then as a Zuschuss in Germany, as like an additional edit, it's here 140 billion euros.
Wow, this is absolutely insane to me, Lambertus. I mean, when I look at Germany, you know, it's supposed to be the nation that's responsible with money, that doesn't have a high debt to GDP ratio. These numbers are eye-watering.
It's insane. And these are that's what I mean. So when I talk about reform, this is it, right? I mean, this is only going to balloon. It's only going to get worse. And the reform will have to mean raising the pension age. Yes, it hurts. It has to happen, right?
What's
getting more money.
Sorry.
I think it's for some areas. I mean, please help me in the chat. I don't want to like talk any bullshit here, but I think it's like 63 for some areas, and then 67 for others. I'm not sure. So please correct me in the chat. But it's a problem. It's a problem. Yeah. Crazy. So that's the big problem. And then, you know, you need investment, and this is not helping your investment in Germany.
I mean, absolutely. These kind of numbers are numbers that crush an economy, especially. I know this is a bit controversial, but when we are basically a continent or that is almost at war, you know, these are not numbers that are reasonable in any sense of the word.
And then 83 billion to defense, right? Which so many people are complaining about, like, oh, so much defense expenditure. But guys, like, the problem is here.
Yeah, for sure. That should not be more than 20 or something. But I see this as a recurring problem, and I'm going to throw it in there. You know what I'm going to say, Lambertus. This is another fantastic reason to have Eurobonds. I have to throw it in. I can't.
So what? You're just going to borrow money to to spend yourself out of the problem you've made for
No.
yourself?
No, never, never. You know, I would never do that, Lambertus. What I would propose is using Eurobonds to create more liquidity and a larger investment union inside of Europe so that you can get higher returns and therefore have a partition-based retirement system, which I am very, very much for. I don't know what you think about in Germany. And I think I asked you this question last time, but is anyone for this, for creating a partition-based or a per-person-based retirement reform where the money is put inside of, you know, bonds and stocks and high return investments?
Man, I think we made a video about this. The Dutch system, and I'm from the Netherlands, so I'm going to have to do some marketing for the Netherlands. It's the best system. Like this Umlage concept in Germany, and I think you have it in France too, right? Where literally I spend €1 on my insurance and pension, and we're just going to take that euro and give it to someone older, right? That's the system here in Germany. I just don't know who thought that was going to work long run, right? If you have if you have a declining not life expectancy, but child rates, like a birth rate, then that's not going to work. You need to think of something else. The Dutch did it this way, right? The Dutch said, okay, look, people have to pay in the Arbeitgeber, so your workforce, and you have to pay into a pot every month. Like I think it's 20% or something of your salary, 10% from the. Oh God, I might be wrong with these stats, but I think 10% from your employer and you 10% yourself. It might be more. And then that pot is not being spent straight away on old people. It's basically being there and it goes into stocks, right? You invest into funds, like a massive Dutch fund that just invests into the markets. And that fund has grown so big over the last couple of decades that now, yes, we have a problem with too many old people, but our situation is actually quite healthy compared to Germany's.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. And it's not only that, right? It's the whole economy that goes behind it. You've got these hedge funds, these investment funds, these retirement funds that take all that capital and reinvest it into the Dutch economy, which really just makes the whole thing boom. I mean, it's really quite a miracle when I look at the Dutch economy. And I think when I look at what's happening in Germany, when I look at what's happening in France, why don't we do the same thing? But maybe I'm going too much into retirement now.
Yeah, the Dutch has 3 pillars, by the way. I just talked about 1 pillar. There's 3 pillars, but we don't have to go into today. Yeah,
but it's a fascinating topic, honestly, and I just had to throw the word Eurobonds in the live stream. I just can't help myself.
Man, you know what we're gonna do? I think the chat can help me out. Like this live stream is gonna be quite long today, right? Because we have France to cover and Slovenia. Every time Flip and Paul mentions what is it? Eurobonds, please count it, because I think it's gonna be like 6 or 7 times. You love them, man.
I love it. I love it so much. We could do one of these drinking games where we just drink every time I say Eurobonds, and I think we'd be
seriously,
pretty hammered after an hour or two.
You're so French, man. I love it. I love it. This makes it good.
The French hate Eurobonds. No, they love it, actually.
They love it, dude. It's like your solution to all the problems you've created in France.
Yeah, borrow from the Germans. That's my solution to everything.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, look, it's a separate topic. I think it would benefit Germany too to have Eurobonds, but yeah, let's get into that another day. I think 7 times.
There's some results coming from France, but not everything quite yet. So I just want to see before we start maybe looking at some of the interesting results, because there's quite a few interesting things that have just came out. Maybe, any final thoughts on Germany? Anything we haven't covered that could be quite interesting? Maybe an updated results. I'm not sure if there's anything out.
Yeah, let's look at an update results. I'm just sharing the live stream from ZDF. Is there a new latest result? Just give me 1 second. So now the candidates are debating here, or not the candidates, but some of the leaders.
And I just want to give a quick shout out while Lambertus looks for the results for anyone who might be listening on Spotify. I know it's not ideal, but there's no maps here. There's no results. We do read out the results for you. And please, for anyone who's listening to the live stream right now, do know that we publish all of our live streams on an audio format on Spotify after they have happened. So please make sure to give us a follow there, help us grow. And back to you, Lambertus. We have new results right now.
Exactly. And I see like Lone David Picurlung is asking for a Dutch channel. Maybe one day, man. Maybe one day. And if someone feels like running a Dutch channel in our community, let us know. But at the moment, it's not on the agenda. And by the way, if you do have questions, tag us. Then we can see them. And of course, if you want to support the channel and definitely have your question answered like 100%, give us a super chat. We would really appreciate it. Cool. So the results. So 25.9% for SPD, 10% loss, 30.9% for CDU, 3% gain. The Greens lost 1.2% to 8%. The AFD gained 11.8% to 20%. The FDP still on 2%, lost 3.5%. Freie Wähler got 3.9%, lost 1.5%. And then you have the left, 4.4%, gained 1.9%.
There's a 5% threshold, right? So those last parties we're talking about do not have any seats, which can be good or bad news depending on who you voted for. There's a quick question in the chat. There's two of them that I find quite interesting. I'll start with maybe what at H Naramist 2156 asks, what is the most pro-European party in Germany? Good question. I am not sure.
Yeah, so there are, it's a good question too. I'm not going to look at the small parties because, of course, there's some very pro-EU small parties, like, Volt, obviously. I mean, everyone knows them here, I think. But if you look at the big parties, I would say the Greens are very, very far in front. They are very pro-European Union. Followed probably by the SPD and CDU. They're also very, very pro-European Union. I mean, Merz, he's definitely not anti-EU. Problem is, of course, integration. So European Union integration. I think the Greens are the strongest, if that's something you like, or Volt, of course. Of course, the weakest on EU is AfD and the Linke. Definitely the AfD, right? They are both these parties do not fancy more European integration, and they don't really fancy the European Union either. So I think that would give you a good overview. Paul, there's one more thing I need to show you.
Go for it.
The group, the entire group here. This is what I thought was really interesting. How young voters voted. Look at this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, look at this.
Can I give a guess before I think it's Die Linke. I want to say it's Die Linke number one. I don't know.
All right, guess. So these are the official results. Yeah. You think the Linke is high?
I would say Die Linke number one and AfD number two.
Okay.
From my limited knowledge and from what I see in France, but I'm not sure.
So here you can see the Linke got 4.5% and the AfD got 20%. Now let's look how young people voted. Look at this. So still quite a lot of people voted for young people. So this is 18 to 24-year-olds. 19% voted SPD, 15% CDU, 20% AfD. So that's in line with the rest of the country. But here, the crazy one for me is 18% voted Linke.
That's crazy. That is a really high percentage compared to the other.
38% of young people voted the two extremes.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's this is a resurging theme across Europe of the very left-wing parties or the far left. I mean, Die Linke, as far as I know, is far left party just getting a massive number of votes. Why is that happening?
I think it's, I don't know. I mean, let me ask you, Paul. You're a young guy, right? I'm way older than you. You're what? You're like 24, 25? Are you voting? What is it in France? Bardella?
LFI.
LFI, yeah, LFI.
No, I would never vote LFI in France. I think it's a terrible party. I think they're very, very racist too. I think they're very anti-Semitic. But no, I would never.
There's a scandal in Germany with the left around anti-Semitism.
Oh, really?
But let's not get into it. But yeah, they're like one of the provinces or states in Germany. They publish like videos about them being anti-Semitic in a sense of, I can't remember exactly what it was. Remind me in the chat, but there's definitely not conspiracies, but very negative publicity around the left.
Wow, that's crazy. No, I in France, there's been the same thing. There's been some videos surfacing about anti-Semitic chants and neo-Nazis who have become far left now. It's kind of crazy, but no, I think at least from what I see in my age group, what's happening in France is, and this is my personal opinion, I don't see it voiced a lot online, so I might be wrong. Please correct me in the chat. But when I think about the left and I think about all these what people would call woke issues, I don't necessarily think they're woke, but maybe very pro-LGBT rights, very pro-Palestine, very very pro-trans, things that I think a lot, not everyone, of course, but things that are quite popular in the left, and especially these far left parties use to gain power. Now, why do I say this? Is because the Democrats in the United States are very vocal on these issues. And they're very, very vocal, and they're very prevalent among young people. When people know about the Democrats, they follow the Democratic Party in the United States, especially on immigration, on what they call woke issues, etc. And I think that translates back to their own national politics. I think these left-wing parties in Europe, I think a lot of them kind of copy the Democrats in the United States and have this quote unquote woke policy. And then they add these other policies, anti-NATO policies, which translate to obviously anti-Ukraine policy, anti-globalism policies, which will be against obviously the state of Israel and against and pro-Palestine. And I think that's what's caused a lot of young voters to go for these far left parties. It's because they've been so focused on the issues that are, again, quote unquote woke. Now, I'm pretty pro-LGBT rights. I'm pro-trans rights. I'm for a lot of things like this. But I think these parties almost weaponize those rights and weaponize those very strong feelings that people, might rightfully have, and they use it to gain power. And they use, anti-NATO rhetoric to support quite vile things.
It's populism, Paul. It's
populism. Exactly. You're absolutely right.
That's the issue.
And their economics make no sense. That angers me.
That is
even more.
You just hit the nail on the head, because what is Germany's big problem? It is recession for 3 years in a row, or no growth. That is Germany's problem, right? Or 4 years even. It's crazy. And then the left solutions to that is pretty much abolish capitalism and put more social programs, right? And without a solution of what we're going to do instead of capitalism. Or the Die Linke, I should say, not the left, Die Linke party in Germany, right? I mean, other left parties see it differently. So that makes no sense to me. You're not going to become competitive again like that. And then if you look at the AfD, the other extreme, right? They're like, oh, the euro, we should be questioning the euro. Yeah. Oh, the European Union doesn't make any sense. Guys, Germany is like the biggest export country in the flipping European Union. It's not like like the euro and the single market is like Germany benefits more than most countries. So it all makes no sense.
I'm looking. I see a bit of a war that I started on the chat, complaining about the left. I do think that I'm not super anti-NATO. I think NATO is causing problems with creating our own European army. So that's why I'm skeptical about it sometimes. But I do think when I'm talking about the left being anti-NATO, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying it causes things like anti-Ukraine. I don't know if you've seen that Lambertus in Germany, but at least in France, people are very anti-NATO, which, France is a country who left NATO, came back. So they're very, half on that. But it's also caused a resurgence of anti-Ukraine, right? And almost pro-Russia at that point. And so I don't know if you've seen that in Germany as well or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Ukraine war is very dividing at the moment, right? Because like an AfD is very much against giving any support to Ukraine, and is also very skeptical of NATO. They don't want to leave it, I think, but they're a bit skeptical about it for sure. And the left is also, I mean, they're the Linke, right? They're also very much known for being skeptical of, obviously, they're the Linke against supporting or spending more on military, for example. They're very much against that idea, right? So, and NATO, of course, they've also, I mean, it's in their history to be skeptical about that kind of stuff. But yeah. Anyway, should we, Paul, is there anything in France? Because we talked about Germany for a long time now. Is there some news in France that we can get into?
We have some news. Unfortunately, we don't have news for everything yet. Lambertus, would you mind heading over to the map that I sent you? While you do that, we do have some results. So I'll just explain a little bit the process in France for the benefit of everyone who's on the live stream. We have not only is it the German election, but we have a French election and later on a Slovenian election. So let's move a bit more about the French election now. This is the municipal election. All seats are up for play. It happens every 6 years. The last election was in 2020. And this has been, a very interesting election because, as many of you will know, Macron is not popular, and so everyone's looking to who will be next, especially with the very tumultuous, very traumatic political experience that France has experienced these past couple of months or years, really. And so we're almost looking to see what will be the direction of the country after these municipal elections. So again, France uses all seats are up for grabs. And France has a 2-round system. So a week ago, there was the first round of municipal elections. This worked via a vote. Let me know, Lambert, if I'm going into too much detail. I don't want to speak for too long. I know I've got a tendency to do that.
Explain it. So how it works. Go for it.
Yeah, I'll go for it. So in the first round, you vote for any party, right? So you've got typical party, and any party that gets over 10% of the threshold moves on to the second round, right? So again, 2-round system. If no party makes above, if a party makes above 50%, though, there is no second round. So a lot of these, so that's why on the map you see a lot of the counties or the cities have already been colored in. It's because
so these sorry to interrupt you, Paul. So these colors on the map are basically already won, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're already won. And you'll see. So the gray will basically be the a miscellaneous candidate or an independent running. So you can see most of the map is actually filled out. Even though it's gray, it means there's a winner. It just means an independent won on that race. But you see all these little white dots is where there's a second round. So most of the municipalities already have an elected representative. And I just zoomed onto Paris, which we don't have any results for yet. But there's actually quite not that many. I think 95% off the top of my head, 95% of municipalities already have a winner. But there's been a few close contestants in some of the major cities in France, notably in Paris, and a few others, which I'll mention as well, which did not reach the 50% mark. And that's what we're going to be looking at, especially as these results roll in.
So what are the big cities or the big places where we are awaiting results in France at the moment?
The big ones right now are obviously Paris. Paris is the big one, very centralized. You've got Marseille, which is also going to be a tight race. You've got Nice, and you've got one more, Toulouse. Toulouse will also be a tight race. The tight race. These are all the interesting races, at least, and they've been, they've been quite challenging. If you look at the Paris situation, for example, which is the most important, in the second round, you had 5 parties that qualified. 5 parties, which is pretty huge in France. I don't know what you think about that, Lambertus, but in Germany, I know it's more proportional, but in France, it's crazy. Usually, your winner takes all is 2 rounds with 2 parties at the second round is more usual.
Right. Yeah, in Germany, it's proportional, right? As long as you hit over the 5%, you're proportionally make it into the parliament.
Yeah, in France, it doesn't work that way in France.
But let me explain this a little bit to me, because these are communal elections, right? So you're talking about the mayor of Paris, for example. Correct?
Exactly. This is for the mayorship and the council underneath. So you have.
Sorry. Go ahead. And the council underneath. What's the council?
The council will vote on some propositions. So the mayor will be the mayor of the city. They'll make the main decisions, but then the council will vote on certain issues, like should we make a park here or something, and then they'll vote on that, right? So I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. It depends on the issue, but they basically direct the cities themselves. It's not like in Germany where you have the states, which all have a leader and their own board, I guess, or their own, as we just saw, their own elections. But it's more about the individual cities. And France-wide, you have the presidential and the legislative elections, which represent the states and the president themselves. It's much more centralized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because I always thought, I know that Germany is it's a federal model, right? So you got very clear split of power between the states and the federal level. But France is a unitary model. So what power do the communes even have? What power does a mayor of Paris have? Is it all about parks and roads, or do they have more power?
The mayor of Paris is special because everyone focuses on Paris because it's such a centralized system. Usually what the mayor of Paris does and says is already recorded by the media. It's usually a personality. It's quite focused because everyone focuses on Paris so much. And it's also, it's seen as the main prize, right? The crown jewel for whatever party wins it. So it's obviously a very important city to win. And this time it was very, very close. And I actually want to start getting into what actually was inside of these parties and what was happening. But shall I go into Paris, for example?
Yeah. So yeah, sure. Who's running in Paris? Because that's the one we want to know. Will we even find out the results of Paris soon or not?
Yes, normally you get a preliminary, but I'm kind of worried that we're not going to get an update soon. We'll see as they come out. I have a few updates to talk about, but I think talking about Paris is quite important.
Let's go Paris, because that's the most important one.
Exactly. So it was very interesting, Paris. You have a grand coalition of different parties. You have on the far left, you have LFI, which is the party we just talked about, by a girl called Chikirou. I'm not going to get into all the names as they might get complicated, but you have the France Unbowed party. That's the far left, basically right underneath the far left on your list there. you had Grégoire, Emmanuel Grégoire, who was a union of the left, which included things like the environmentalists, which included the Socialist Party, the communists as well. And then you had a candidate in the center who's called Bournazel, and he was also a very important player. And you then had a far right, or two rights candidates. You had Dati, which is there in the center on the Wikipedia page. And even far right, you had another one called, I forgot her name now, but Sophie, I think her name was.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. But you
that
had
was the parties. And that was the first round, right? So this is now the second round is between these three characters.
Yes, because there's been three characters. Yeah. there's been a little bit of controversy, basically. There was 5 parties that made it, but some alliances were made. Let me try and find a graphic for you as I talk. I'm going to try and find one that can be used to kind of give a better visual representation. But essentially, you had the centrist candidate and the far right candidate that dropped out of the race. And that gave a better fighting chance to the center candidate there, or well, she's not center, but she's on the right, Rashida Dati, the one with the glasses, and she is right now the main candidate for representing the right spectrum of the party.
Okay. So let me try to understand what you're saying, right? So, for example, on the first round, I assume you had for Paris literally like loads of candidates, like probably 20 or so, no, from all of these parties below that you can see here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then in the first round, you noticed, okay, well, lots of them got very little votes, I assume. And these three, so Emmanuel Grégoire from PS, Socialist Party, Rashida Dati from LR, and Sophia Chikirou from LFI are the leaders, and they went to the second round.
Exactly. So there was some tactical things that were done to try and basically give an advantage to some of the players here, although not on all sides. But the main people that dropped out were Bournazel in the center, and I think we have a link now. But the main people that left basically gave their votes, or strategically gave their votes to to the other players. So in that list here, number 1, Emmanuel Grégoire, the leftist party, got 38% of the votes. Rashida Dati got 25%. Sophia Chikirou got around 12%. Pierre-Yves Bournazel who was a centrist candidate, center-right, 11.3%. And Sarah Knafo, which is far-right, very, very far-right. I don't know if you've heard of them, actually. They're called Reconquête. Oh, my God. Reconquête.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah, Reconquest. Yeah.
Reconquest. Yeah, they very far-right party. 10.4% is kind of an astounding election result. They call themselves the Yellows, quote-unquote. And the last two there, Pierre-Yves Bournazel, basically got into an alliance with Rashida Dati, and they basically created a new list between the center and Rashida Dati to potentially win the election. And Sarah Knafo dropped out of the race to again give Rashida Dati a fighting chance against Emmanuel Grégoire.
Okay, so man, I'm not into French politics this deep, but so if I'm understanding it correctly, you now then have in the second round you have this socialist Emmanuel Grégoire, who is like 38%, quite a lot, running against centrist and right-wing or center-right Rashida Dati. Exactly.
Dati. Yep.
And then the France Ambaud, the far left, is the third one, right? That's in the race still.
Exactly. And she refused to drop out. And actually, Emmanuel Grégoire refused to have an alliance with her because she's too far left, right? So whilst the far right was able to drop out to help Rashida Dati, the far left refused to do so, and so they're basically taking votes from Grégoire to potentially win against Dati.
Okay. So, and then here you have all these parties. So you have all of these endorsements. Then, for example, Rashida Dati is endorsed by Renaissance, so by Macron's party.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and ecological movement. Geez, that's like really big tent, man. All of these parties.
Rashida Dati is a bit of a controversial one. She's someone who has been right-wing historically. She was with the Republicans, but she left the party. She's an independent now. Well, not really. She's still part of the Republicans. So she's a Republican candidate, but she's been in and out, and she has a wide coalition in Paris. To be honest.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's the first round. The second round is these three against each other, and then it's just basically winner takes all, right? So if for example Rashida gets 40%, the other to 20%, she wins.
So it's not quite that. It's a bit complicated in France. I don't want to get into too much detail because otherwise it will just get a bit boring for the audience. I don't want to lose them. I've been talking too much, but essentially,
by the way, very quickly, Paul, to the audience, please do tag us if you have questions and stuff, because we're going into this hole, and if you want to know something specific, do let us know. But yeah, come back to you, Paul.
yeah. So I won't go into too much detail, but the gist of it is they'll be proportionally distributed based on the amount of votes, unless a certain candidate gets above 50% of the vote, in which case they'll get like a premium number of seats. Okay. The one who has the most votes also gets a premium number of seats, but they get a bit less. That's as far as I'll go, because otherwise we're going to be here all night. That's the idea.
Okay, Paul, I have a great question from the chat. Here we go. Real Hawk 1. Which of the candidates is best for Europe?
Good question. No, probably Emmanuel Grégoire. It's complicated. On one hand, you have firstly, Sofia Chikirou, terrible for Europe. She hates Europe. She despises it. Wants it dead. So
we basically don't want Sofia Chikirou to win, right?
No. She will definitely not win anyway. But she's terrible for Europe. But she's not going to win. The next one, the reason I'm so hesitant between Rachida Dati and Emmanuel Grégoire is because Rachida Dati has not been very pro-European in the past. She doesn't talk about it much. I mean, I guess she's more of a local politician, but it's not one of the candidates that's more aligned on Europe, even though she's aligned on the EPP, as she's part of the Republican Party. And Emmanuel Grégoire is a bit more complicated. He is obviously, with the Socialist Party, which is pro-EU, the Ecologists, which are pro-EU, but not always. So it's also complicated in France. But crucially, they have a party inside called Place Publique. Place Publique, you might have heard his name, Raphael Glucksmann. I'm not sure if you remember them.
Mm-hmm.
And he is very pro-EU, very, very pro-EU. So I guess if I had to choose, it would be Emmanuel Grégoire, even though Dati is sponsored, so to speak, by Macron's party. She's, she doesn't really represent that party. She's very aggressive towards Macron. It is more of an alliance of convenience.
Has Macron endorsed any of these candidates?
Yes, he's endorsed. He's endorsed Rachida Dati, basically.
Yeah. Okay, and I think again. So we got a super chat. So I love it. Thank you so much from a Canadian, Rob Wolvin, for $5 Canadian, and he wants to zoom out a little bit. I think we're going into too much local elections here, and he's like, Paul, please explain to a Canadian why Macron, admired abroad, is so unpopular in France.
Oh my God, yeah. Good. Good question.
To be honest, I feel the same way because I kind of like Macron, man.
I like Macron too. Shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna get my house burned down. But no, Macron.
Why? Okay, go. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Why? Right? Why? He is in France. Even in France, he's recognized as good on foreign policy, but on internal policy, he's really messed up from multiple things. At least that's why people see it. On retirements, they don't want him to increase the retirement age. There was the yellow vest movement. I don't know if you remember that, but the cost of living crisis, where oil prices went up. That's when he became really unpopular. Really tried to push through his reforms, and everyone basically rioted. You had as well the COVID crisis, and it's complicated because on the right they will say he went too far, he spent too much money, and on the left they will say he didn't spend enough money and he didn't give enough benefits. So he got punished there too. And then he had some catastrophic political plays, the 2024 European election, which ended in him calling for a snap election, promptly losing it, and then creating a massive political chaos. That was not a very good cause for inspiration for French people, I would say.
But Paul, would you say it was like a slow death? So, for example, you mentioned the Yellow Vest movement, you mentioned pension ages, you mentioned COVID, now you mentioned the elections that happened. So that seemed like a slow death of Macron internally, or was there like one big moment where the French were like, that's it?
Look, the second he got elected was the second he was hated. I'm not gonna lie.
That's how the French are, right?
Being a French president is a way to get hated by the whole country. But no, I mean, it was definitely a slow death. The Gilets jaunes movement was the first bullet, and from there it was a slow bleeding, especially COVID, which hit very hard. But to Macron's defense, he had a very, very difficult election. I mean, he had Trump part 1, he had COVID, he had the Ukraine war, the situation in Gaza, Israel's bombings of Gaza. He had a second election, a second Trump, the Ukraine invasion, which continues to now. It's quite complicated.
So we got a super chat here from European Union. I can't see the full name now, sorry, but for 25, I think that's Polish money. I think so. Anyway, but he said Macron's suffering for being a centrist, laughing my ass off. It's probably true in a way.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what happened. I mean, when you have the COVID crisis hit, that's exactly what happened. He spent too much money for the right, and he didn't spend enough money for the left, right? And then he was actually quite a champion on gay rights, which wasn't good for the right. But on the left, I don't think he got enough visibility, so he wasn't credited for many of these achievements, I would call them.
Yeah. Would you feel so? For example, the thing I have with Macron, as much as I like him, I really like his speeches, his vision, etc. But I always do feel, now that I've seen Macron for almost 10 years, that okay, it's a lot of talk on an international level, but very little actual conversion of doing. Actually implementing what you're saying. Is that similar in France, where he talks a lot about internal policy and doesn't implement, or is that a different thing in France?
I actually would say the opposite. I would say in France, so that's very interesting to say that, because on the international level, I very much agree. But in France, what happens is he says something, then he does it. And then it's very unpopular, like raising the fuel prices or raising the retirement age. And then the problem is, these are things that are really, really unpopular. And then he refuses to compromise on them. And if you refuse to compromise on something like this, it's not going to end well for you electorally. So he's really, really been suffering from that. And I think he's going to continue suffering from it as long as he's not able to compromise. And I mean, now he's approaching the end of his presidency. We'll see what comes next. But the biggest problem that I have with Macron, even though I'm proud to say I voted for him twice, is that he does not, he has taken this European identity, this European fervor of we need more EU, and he's attached it to his personality, and his personality became super unpopular. So now when I talk about the EU, I get told, well, you sound like Macron. Yes, I do, because these are great ideas, but he's become so unpopular, these ideas became unpopular, and that's the biggest problem with Macron.
Yeah, that is a problem. That is a shame. He's kind of moved like pro-Europeanness into negative territory by being attached to him, which might explains why the French are like among Europeans the most skeptical about the EU. Not the most, but like among the most, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. They want nothing to do with it, because you talk about the EU, you talk about I'm going to say the word again. I'm going to talk about Eurobonds.
Well, number two. Yeah.
But talk about anything pro EU, and it's it's almost become an insult. You are a Macroniste. That's what they say. Macroniste. You're a Macroniste, and it's like, well, yeah, but he's got good ideas, and we shouldn't throw them away just because we don't like the person.
Yeah. Yeah, there he goes again. Exactly. Number 2 for Paul. Paul, someone's saying that there's an update on Nice. Results are in for Nice. Is that true? I can't find them here. Do you have another feed or something showing that Nice is in?
I saw some messages, but I was too busy talking too much. But I can tell you, while we look for the results, maybe I don't know if you'll be able to find them. It's actually quite interesting. You have two people, Eric Ciotti and Christian Estrosi, and they're both
Nice or what?
Eric Ciotti, do you remember that guy?
No. Oh yeah, Eric Ciotti. Yeah. The guy that left the LR, right?
Yes, exactly. He betrayed the LR party and went somewhere else. So he's there. And Christian Estrosi, which is another right-wing candidate, and it's a internal split of right-wing candidates. And we were seeing who's going to come out on top. It was really, really interesting election, because if Eric Ciotti made it on top, that means that it gives more reason for the right, for the Republicans, to move towards the RN, towards the far right in France. And from what I understand from the polling data, I don't want to say any results because we don't have them yet, but it seems like he may have won. And this is a big victory for the far right party, because this will give more credibility to the fact that, look, if you ally with us, if you're right wing, and if you ally with the RN, with the far right National Party, National Rally, you will win in some right wing conscriptions. So it's a big win for the RN.
Okay. So Eric Ciotti winning would be a big win for Le Pen and Bardella, basically.
Exactly. Very, very big win. It gives more reason for what's called the Union of the Right Alliance, which is just a front of the RN, maybe even Reconquer, and the Republicans.
Here you got them, by the way. So for anyone watching, these are the two running in Nice. Eric Ciotti, here you go, and Christian S. Rossi.
And Christian is more center-right. Horizons is normally a pro-EU party, which is in alliance with Macron, but still quite right-wing. And Eric Ciotti is a big victory for the RN if he wins.
Crazy. Very cool.
I do have some news. There is a city in France called Le Havre. I don't know if you've heard of this city.
No.
It's on the left-hand side of France. Oh,
1 second. Let me go back. 1 second. Let me zoom out. Here we go. Yep.
Le Havre. Maybe it's not written on there, but it's a big result. Edouard Philippe, who is the main contender. You know him. You know Edouard Philippe.
Yeah.
He has just won re-election of the mayor of Le Havre, which is a big win for him.
Okay, I'll be honest with you, Paul, and I'm going to be controversial here. I'm upset that he won. And I'll tell you why. Not that I have anything against him, and probably his contender was something far left, far right, which we don't want, but because I think his candidacy for the president in France, which he will probably do, he will probably try to get the presidency, is not great. I'd rather have another centrist like Gabriel Attal run than Edouard Philippe.
Totally agree.
Totally agree? Yes, I got something.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I am not an Edouard Philippe fan. I've spoken with people from his party, and they're supposed to be a pro-EU party. And I talked to them about, hey, we need to have a more integrated union. We need to have a more integrated military cooperation. And it's just no's all around. They don't want to hear it. So I from personal experience and from what I've seen online, they are not pro-EU, or they are not that pro-EU.
This guy, right? Edouard Philippe is currently polling at 19% to become the next president of France.
Yeah, 19%. But he's
he doesn't even look presidential. No offense, but
you can't say that, Lambertus. He has.
I know I can't say that. I'm gonna get flamed for that in the comments. I mean, but I don't know. He doesn't have that charm that Macron does, right?
Oh, he doesn't. He's a step down. I keep saying this. People are gonna miss Macron, man. Where he's gonna leave, and we're gonna have like something terrible. Like we're gonna have this guy. We're gonna have Jordan Bardella, and it's not gonna be good. It's gonna be.
Paul, while we're waiting for results, is there any news about Le Pen and her try to become the president? Is she still on trial, right? Not trial, but like there's a
she's still banned.
She's still banned.
Yeah. She's appealing to that now, but it's looking more and more like it's going to be Bardella as the contender. And to be honest, it's kind of working out for them. They're rising in the polls steadily. He's a very popular candidate.
Okay. So really, I mean, if we look at these polls right here, we have Jordan Bardella leading with 36% for the president of France. Edouard Philippe is actually in second place with 19%, the latest poll. And then we have Bruno Retailleau. How do you say this? Bruno Retailleau.
Retailleau.
Okay. Who's this guy?
He's a Republican candidate.
Okay, so center right.
Yeah, center right. I don't think he has much of a chance, even though he's polling on 12%. I actually want to bring your attention to on the left there, in yellow, Raphael Glucksmann, with 12%. It seems he's someone who has a lot of potential in my eyes.
Right.
If you have, Edouard Philippe that is not running, maybe Gabriel Attal that is there instead, and a poor performance from Bruno Retailleau, you could end up with Raphael Glucksmann. He's a center-left candidate who is super, super pro-EU. I mean, EU army, EU integration, federalization. Not as good as Attal, in my opinion, but he's up there, right? He's really up there, and I think he has a really good chance. He's rising in the polls, and if the conditions are just right, we might end up by a pure miracle with a pro-EU president at the head of France.
Okay, interesting. Oh man, I can't wait for the elections next year. I love elections, but I just think that the results just not going to go our way, right? The one that I would like to win, because Jean-Luc Mélenchon is at 11%, so that's also not a candidate I'm actually very, very excited about. So yeah, we're gonna have to see.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
We have a super chat in the comments. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, Lambertus. Please do let me know. But
no, it's cool. Let's go for it. Yeah, explain it. Explain domestic politics.
I love it. I can't shut up. But from Rob Wolven, who asks, is domestic politics not the job of the prime minister? Excellent question. It's up for debate. It depends who you ask. I think yes, it should be. But the way it works right now is it is not like most republics. It's not like Germany. It's not like most countries. The president has a ton of power. I mean, they can dissolve the parliament. They can they can get laws through if they put certain laws in place, and they have a lot of influence over national politics. Now, the prime minister technically also has a lot of power over international politics, but kind of what's settled in these past few years has been the president handles with foreign policy and the prime minister handles internal policy. Of course, that's a bit tough right now, especially since there's a hung parliament, but it's kind of up for debate. And actually, a candidate like Gabriel Attal is proposing that we change the constitution to make the president and the prime minister more separate from their roles, which is something I also really, really agree with. I think it'd be really great to have that separation of powers, because it's hard for the president to be at the same time an international representative and a local politics, interested in local politics and national politics. It's quite difficult to follow.
Yeah. No, I get it. We have another question from the chat, and this is from Martin9218. Will Paul run for any office?
I did actually run for the election, for the Paris municipal election. If you were in the 7th arrondissement, maybe you saw my name on one of the ballots. But no, unfortunately, I will not be running for president next year. Although I would love
to. Paul, aim high, man. Aim high.
Aim high, yeah. Our 600 viewers are going to carry me to victory. I can feel it. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd probably vote for you. Definitely if you are going against Bardella, man, I'd vote for you.
Yeah. I mean, I would vote for anything against Bardella, to be honest. So I don't think it'd be very complicated. We're getting some first results from Paris, actually, Lambertus. I don't know if you can zoom out. I just saw.
Yeah. Okay. Let's 1 second.
I don't know if it's updated on the websites, but I've just got a message.
This website doesn't seem to be updating. So
it's not
if someone else has a better website, please share it with us, because there's nothing here.
Yeah, I so from what I saw from the messages, and I saw just in chat the same information. So we'll see. Emmanuel Grégoire from the Left Party has 51% of the vote in Paris, and Dati has 37% of the votes, which is quite the result.
What? So is it over?
Sorry,
is Paris over? Okay.
Not over. We're gonna have to count throughout the night, but it's a big win for the left if these numbers are true.
Okay, so because Dati, I remember, So this is for Paris, and Dati is the one where the centrist and the right-wing parties align behind.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
And actually, they're calling it now. It looks like Emmanuel Grégoire is the mayor of Paris. So that's
really.
Yeah, exactly.
That's done. It's done. Okay.
It's done because I guess he has such a crushing lead. So that's him. He's mayor of Paris.
Oh wait. So okay, let's talk about this guy. Paris municipal elections.
Oh, and we have some more results. So I'll first talk about this.
Okay. So who won? We got these three here. Who won?
Emmanuel Grégoire on the left from the PS, the Socialist Party.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. Good news for Europe. I would
say.
Good
news for Europe.
I would say good news for Europe.
After Germany, we need to celebrate what we can. Great news.
You need to celebrate what we can. It's obviously not the result I would have wanted, but indeed, it's a win for Europe, I would say.
Okay. Do you think Dati was going to take it then?
I thought she had a good chance because if you looked at, I know that the previous graph is gone, but if you looked at it, I mean, 10% towards Bournazel, who is center, 10% for the far right, and 25% for Dati. Right, so if you add these numbers up together, that makes for 45% of the vote normally, and then LFI was taking 10% of the rest of the vote because they didn't drop out of the race. So people were voting tactically, and I guess most voters that voted LFI, or maybe some of the voters who didn't vote in the first round, went out en masse to vote for Emmanuel Grégoire to kind of vote against Dati. Another thing which I didn't talk about is that the center was actually very split on this decision between Rachida Dati and Emmanuel Grégoire. I know that a lot of people in the centrist party decided to, not follow the recommendations of the party and instead vote for the opposition or the quote-unquote opposition for them, which would be Grégoire. So a lot of them went against their party and voted for Grégoire, it seems.
Okay, interesting. So we have another question here. I can't scroll up. Where is it? Something about you, Paul. What is the here? So from Dark Pass, what is the result Paul would have wanted? You don't have to say if you don't want to, Paul, but that's the question.
I would have loved for Bornazel to win the election, but he's not even. He got 10%.
He's not even on the list for the second round.
That's what I would have liked. Unfortunately, doesn't always go your way. But I think I'm happy to say that Sofia Shikiru didn't win, and even Dati wouldn't have been atrocious. I'm happy with the result. Is what I'll leave it as.
Okay. So, do we have any other results in France coming through?
Yes, I'm aware that we're going to have to move to Slovenia in just a second, but we do have some more results, and they are quite interesting. You have results from Marseille, the second biggest city in France. I'm not sure if it's on the map, but I have the results here on my right. You have the left wing.
Give me the link. Give me the link, Paul. I'll share it for people to see.
You're on it, actually. If you scroll down, I've just got it here. If you scroll down, maybe, and it's a little bit further. It's right here. Yeah. So there's no graphic, unfortunately, but what it says is basically that the left won the election in Marseille, and this was also a very controversial election because you had the far right party against the RN, the Rassemblement National, against the left, and it seems like the left has come out on top for quite a decisive win with 54% of the vote against the RN with only 40% of the vote.
Wow, so the left won Marseille, okay? Because I thought Marseille is like quite a stronghold for right wing politics, but apparently not. Am I wrong there? Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
It's a little bit close. It's just the other way around. It's quite a stronghold for the left. So even 40% is quite a good result for them. It's actually known in France is there's a lot of immigration in Marseille that come from Northern Africa, and they stay in Marseille. And so it's a very it's a very multicultural city. And so that's why it's so controversial that 40% for the RN, because there's a lot of it's complicated. You have a lot of people who are against the RN that are there that might vote for LFI, but also you have a lot of people who are not happy about the situation, the immigration situation, who vote for the far right. And one last thing before I shut up. The left allied with the far left party here, which is very strong in Marseille, and that's probably why they got that good result.
Okay, all right. Any other results before you move on France?
I think. Yeah. Sorry.
If I scroll up 1 second, is there anything new? Here, municipal elections. Emmanuel Guerres elected as mayor of Paris. Yeah, that was the last thing.
Yeah, there's a few other parties, but the gist of it is this: it seems that the left has had quite a good score in some of these elections. It seems that the far right also had very good scores, and the extreme far right had good scores. So the only thing that went, so the only party that lost is the center, which, if you are pro EU, is probably not the best result, to be quite honest. But that's the trajectory France is going in.
Right. All right, I'm going to prepare for Slovenia, which is going to come next, but I need to make some small edits. So, Paul, I need you to go in a little monologue and maybe answer some questions.
I know how to do that.
You can talk well. We need about a minute to prepare. So, yeah, if there's a good question. Otherwise, I would ask... have a look at the chat, Paul. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, go for it. So I'm just going to monologue for a bit, especially about the French elections, because I just can't help myself. Actually, I've got a question from the chat here. EU Made Simple, do you think having that many elections is hindering the governing parties by doing interesting changes and just wait it out? So how about sum up most of the elections? I guess I'm not sure if it hinders the parties themselves. In terms of elections, they're always a way to debate and to try and see, and it might change the ruling party and the ruling coalition. But I think that these elections that we've had these past few years, especially these past few months, we've had a lot of them, and it's really showing the trajectory that Europe is taking, really moving more towards extremist parties all around. I mean, you look at Germany with the AfD, even Die Linke, when it comes to the young voters, moving towards more extremist parties, which is kind of concerning for those who are pro-EU, because extremist parties don't necessarily go well with pro-EU sentiment, which is kind of a shame, I think, because it's still compatible whether you're on the left or you're on the right. I still think it's compatible, but indeed it's not good for those who are pro-EU. There's another question here from Dadark Pass. Does Paul prefer a more presidential system or prime ministerial system with a figurehead? I love having a president. I'm a big pro-president guy. I think it's necessary because it gives more image to the country or to the state that's being represented. When I think about, for example, the EU, there's this whole debate between, do we want to have like a prime minister or do we have like a president? And I'm very much in that presidential camp. I think being able to vote for a person directly to say, this is the person I want to be voted in is very, very, very important. And it gives legitimacy to the person that's elected. And I just think that, for example, when it comes to the European Commission, which is not very democratic in a way, you vote for parties, which then go for the president of the Commission, etc. That kind of, it's not very directly democratic, and it kind of puts people off because they don't really know who they're voting for. So that's why I'm more of a presidential system kind of guy.
All right, Paul, I think we're almost ready. There's one super chat. So, I am Turkey. Which party most hates Turkey? Maybe you can take that one, and then we can switch over to Slovenia.
Which party hates most Turkey in France?
I guess so. Yeah.
In France, definitely the National Rally or Reconquête, one of those. They probably hate Turkey. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think they hate anyone who has any slightly darker skin tone. So I guess I'd say that.
All right, everyone. Give us 20 seconds, and we will be back in 20 seconds for the next part. So just give us 20 seconds. Thanks. And we are back, and you guys are in luck because we no longer have to listen to Paul for a while to babble on about French politics, because we have Till Barkley here, and he is from our Discord manager even, and we couldn't quite fit in the wording in the speech bubble here, but you guys are just going to have to live with it. And we're going to talk about Slovenia. So, Till, what shall I share first? Shall I share the results?
Share the images I sent before.
Perfect. But maybe while I do that, you can give a brief introduction of what happened in Slovenia and what these elections are all about.
So essentially, to give like very broad context in Slovenia, for like 2/3 to 3/4 of the time, we have the left in power, and for the remainder, you have the right. So if you look at this image, you can see the left, you can see the current parliament, which is dominated by the center to center left Svoboda, or freedom movement, led by Robert Golob, who is the incumbent prime minister, and is governing with the Social Democrats and the left. The opposition is led by Janez Janša, who is the leader of the center-right to right-wing, some would even say far-right, just right-wing populist, I'd say, party SDS. And he has led the party for the last 30 years. So this election is kind of a showdown between the incumbent Prime Minister Golob and Janša trying to get a fourth non-consecutive term in office as Prime Minister. So if we look at the last term, essentially, okay, or we can also look at the parties.
Let's have a look at the parties. Yeah, exactly. Explain to what's going on. Yeah.
At the furthest left, we have the Levica Vesna Alliance. So this is an alliance between the left-wing Levica and the center, not the center, the like center left to left-wing kind of Greens, known as Vesna. And they're running on a joint list. Now, they, in the polls, were predicted to get like 8 seats, though, well, in the preliminary results we'll see later, they're quite a bit worse. Though Levica is currently in government. So the government is led by Renew, the SND, and the left. Then we have the Social Democrats. Oh, if I just add to the left on its European policy, the left is your standard, like, moderate left-wing party. Economically, it isn't like radical socialist, it's just more moderate, I guess. But for its European policy, it is theoretically in favor of European integration, but it does not like the current EU because essentially it believes that the EU is a vehicle for American imperialism, because the EU kind of goes ahead with whatever the US wants. And also it thinks the EU should be socialist and not have conservative economic influence. Next up, we have the Social Democrats, which are your like average social democratic party. They currently run the foreign ministry, and their foreign minister, Tanja Fajon, is a very internationalist foreign minister. She is like, for what EOMS viewers would probably think, the kind of perfect foreign minister in the very pro-European sense, the very pro-Ukraine sense, and also the very pro-Palestine sense. So that would be the Social Democrats, though they aren't led by her. They're led by Matjaž Han. Then is the Freedom Movement, or Svoboda, which is the dominant left party currently. So what usually happens in Slovenian politics is that a left party spawns in before the election, and they die before the next election, and a new one appears. And this cycle just repeats every single election. Shockingly, though, Svoboda managed to break the trend, and they're not only still alive, but they're like literally neck and neck with the SDS. So they, in the polls, this isn't the exit poll, wait. This is the, sorry, this is the exit poll, wait, I confused something. So in the exit poll, they were in first place, though in the preliminary results, they were in second place. So it's almost tied. Then Svoboda is almost as internationalist as SD, but not as much. It's your like, it's in Renew, but it's maybe comparable to D66 or something like that with its policy. That is it for the left. Now, the left is led by Golob, and essentially in Slovenian politics, currently stuff is very polarized. Every side sticks to its own side and believes only its own side, and therefore politics has turned really aggressive, let's say. Golob represents the left as the kind of continuity candidate for the usual left domination of Slovenian politics. And like, you could say he's very boring in the sense that it just continues the same thing without any like major ideas. And this was one of the largest criticism of the left government, because they kind of didn't do much people could really point toward.
So Till, let me ask you a question. So we talked about the left, right? So we have these three parties, and they were the incumbents, no? They had the government.
They are the incumbent government.
Okay, perfect. Then let's have a look at the opposition.
If you look at the previous image, you see that they have a really big majority.
Right.
And Svoboda, even though it appeared like 1 month before the election, controls literally 41 out of 90 seats currently. So they have very large control, but despite this, they haven't been able to pass any major reforms. They passed, of course, some reforms, but not to the extent people expected given the size of their majority.
Okay. Then let's have a look at the opposition. So who is Janez Janša?
So if you go to this, Janša is the leader of the SDS, and he is its leader for the past 30 years. So while the left changes their leader every other election almost, just this time is an exception, the right sticks by Janša all the time. There has never been a time Janša wasn't the leader of the right since literally like maybe the third election or something. So Janša is the main leader of the right, and most elections are kind of not really referendums on the left. Like the left says, vote for us because we aren't Janša. And the right says, oh, I'm going to fix this because the left doesn't do anything. So they're kind of piggybacking off each other, saying, you don't do anything, you are, well, a dictator. So this kind of continues for every election. If we look at each of the right parties individually, the center-to-center-right Democrats are a split-off from the SDS. Their leader was the longtime foreign minister and presidential candidate of the SDS, but he split off last year to found his own party. He apparently expected to win this election, which is a bit hilarious looking at the exit poll, but he might be a major swing vote to determine which side gets to govern. Though according to him, he does not expect to give anyone the ability to govern, he expects to govern as prime minister himself. So we'll see what happens there. They essentially oppose this polarization of this two-block politics, though the media kind of doesn't buy his narrative. Many think that the Democrats split off just to attract moderate Svoboda voters to end up benefiting the SDS to let Janša back into power. So there is a kind of conspiracy theory about them being really just allies of Janša, which of course they don't agree with. Then there's the center-right alliance comprised of New Slovenia, a Christian Democratic Party, the Slovenian People's Party, and Focus. This is, you can just imagine it as your standard center-right party or alliance. It isn't really like, you think CDU vibes would describe it pretty well.
Right.
In the European Parliament, they sit with the EPP and they have one MEP, which is their former leader. The former leader previously said that the Christian Democrats would never allow Janša to become prime minister again, and they explicitly ruled out working with him, though recently, a few months ago, the party changed its mind, which triggered his resignation. So even if we have the right winning here in the exit poll, there is a very big question whether they will actually accept Janša as the new prime minister, especially with the scandal we'll get to in a moment.
Because this is the actual exit poll right now, what we're looking at, or not?
This is the exit poll, which dropped 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago, and this does show that who's number one here? I can't even see it. Number one is Svoboda, no?
Svoboda is leading by 1 seat in the exit poll.
Okay, so the center left aligned to Renew Europe is number one, and number two is the SDS, right?
Yes. So about the SDS, they are economically, you could say, center-right, but on everything else, they're more right-wing. Janša himself is, he has very good ties with Orban and Trump, and you might even describe the party well if you call it Fidesz. SDS is pretty similar in vibes to Fidesz.
Okay.
So ideologically, it isn't far-right or anything, but the vibes given off by Janša through his many corruption scandals, and a thing I'll get to in a moment, are really deep.
Okay, so if we look of course, at EU Made Simple, we always look at what's positive for Europe, right? So I guess Robert Golob is a lot more positive with his politics for the European Union. Yes, yeah. Do you think he can win though? He's 1 seat ahead. Is there a lot still counting, I assume?
He can win, but it's looking unlikely.
Okay.
That is unlikely for a left majority.
Right.
As I said before, the moderate right parties might prefer to work with him than Janša,
Right.
because of a major recent scandal I'm alluding to. I would just
Right.
first talk about Resnica.
Okay.
So Resnica, founded under the last Janša government, explicitly just to oppose his COVID policy. And they're essentially anti-vax, anti-5G. They literally had ties with Russian spies. And when pressed on it on TV, they asked, what's the problem? So they are literally very populist, and it's hard to really say what they do. They claim they're extremely anti-corruption and stuff like that, but their positions are, well, I would just say a bit irrational.
Right. And that's Resnica, right?
But very, very Eurosceptic as well. Resnica is the only really Eurosceptic party that is going to get in this election. The rest are all pro-European. With Levica, you could say they're anti-EU, but pro-European, as they want a socialist stuff EU, as I've said before. But Resnica is the only explicitly opposed to European integration.
Okay, so what is the most likely coalition you think will come out of this election?
Could you look at the next image for the...
Oh, it's a bit hard to see,
the
though.
exit poll. Oh, that's
do you have
great.
do you have a website, Till, that you can share with us that we can have a look at the results?
No, I made this diagram because the website looks much worse. You can click the website which I sent you, but
yeah, I will do. Let's go to the website.
It doesn't have the parties ordered left to right, so you don't know what you're looking at. But it's the official election commission.
Okay.
So
here. Yeah.
The preliminary result with 61% of the votes counted. Wait, I'm just refreshing the page. Yes, 62% of the votes counted. The SDS is at 29 seats, putting them in first place, while Svoboda is in second place with 28, and then the others below. One of the shocking results here would be Levica, Vesna on just 5 when they were expected to have 8 in the polls. And I guess another surprise would be Resnica even getting in, because nobody kind of it looked they might get 4 or fall out, but they got 5.
Oh wow! And if SDS wins the night, right? If they were to win, what are we looking at then? Do they get to form the government?
The government formation is essentially decided by the president. The president will decide who she will give the mandate to, and she has essentially sole discretion to give the mandate.
Okay.
But if the person she appoints does not win, the next mandate is decided by MPs in parliament. So she can't just do whatever she wants. But she said that she will give the mandate to whoever comes to her with 46 votes, so a majority. So essentially,
interesting. Okay.
You don't know who is going to be it. It depends. I would guess that Resnica founded literally to oppose Janša. So they could work with him, but they're kind of selling anti-corruption, and they would work with a guy who was in prison twice and had 1 million corruption scandals that he always somehow gets out of. But a particularly insane scandal was when he sold a property in the national park. The property was sold for a lot of money, yet it was a ruin that you couldn't develop. So nobody can prove exactly what he did as prime minister for that property, but it's definitely very suspicious. Now, to talk about the most recent scandal, because this has kind of defined the campaign. Usually campaigns are very boring. Everybody talks about health reform each time, and then nobody does anything after the election, or they pass a small policy that nobody's happy with. But this election was defined by a real big argument, essentially, which is videos surfaced online of former Svoboda, so of the largest governing party officials, the former, not anymore, who in the videos essentially told the person they were talking to a bunch of very corrupt things that would indicate that Golob had been engaging in corruption. Now, these things were not as bad as the media likes to say. Like, the worst allegation to specifically the government would be that the prime minister had influence over GenE, that is a state-owned energy company, which Golob founded, and he was its CEO for 15 years up to 2021. And while, yes, it's supposed to be independent and he should definitely not have influence over it, if he was its CEO for 15 years, like, it's kind of obvious that he probably had. Like, this isn't the most damning thing. The most damning thing was probably to another politician, which isn't really relevant to the election, so I'll just leave it.
So let me understand
What
that
is
correctly.
bigger with the scandal is how the hell did these videos come out? And this is where Israel gets involved.
Okay, before you go to Israel, let me just repeat what you said, just to make sure I understand it correctly. So, Golob from Svoboda, right? He's the leader. Yeah, Svoboda, exactly. He has a corruption allegation because of a company, I'm not sure how it was called, that he was CEO. Yeah, that he was CEO for until, I don't know, only a couple of years ago, right?
Yes.
Correct. And now this went public only a week ago, and you're saying that the Israelis are somehow involved with this, or?
Yes, so everybody questioned how the hell did people manage to record these ministers, a former minister specifically, say that stuff.
Right.
So now we can get to the terrible part.
Okay.
So what these people who were recorded said is how exactly it happened. And if we follow the exact operations manual of how the people were lured, like the minister was lured to Vienna, where she was told that for an investment opportunity from a British company that wanted to apparently invest in Slovenia, and she would be the big leader or something like of this. And there were 2 meetings with her where she told them a bunch of stuff she will probably regrets now. But they secretly recorded her and then published the videos. And the same operations happened for many other former lawyers, or I think a former important person in GenE. I think I saw 6 of these people get, there might be more, get recorded.
Okay.
And then journalists at Mladina and the 8 March Institute wondered, wait, this looks exactly like the operation of an Israeli company known as Black Cube. Black Cube had the same operations in other cases, including the Hungarian elections of 2018 and 2022, where they lured politicians, recorded them, and published it. And in those cases, it was proved. So now they started searching. Is there evidence that it was this company? So what they found was that an Israeli plane landed in Brnik airport in Slovenia on the 22nd of December 2025 with 4 people on board. The plane would then leave for Rome, where they managed to identify the people on the flight. The CEO of Black Cube and a few others. The CEO of the company just randomly appeared in Slovenia. So again, this is all allegedly, but what the journalists then found is that apparently on the same day, Janez Janša had allegedly received certain Israelis at the headquarters of the SDS. So the plane landed in Brnik on the same day as Janša allegedly met some Israeli-speaking people at the SDS HQ. Now, if you're asking, so is Netanyahu involved somehow? Well,
but
the 2 officials who were present in Ljubljana had met certain Israeli ministers earlier last year about conducting covert intelligence operations that could never be connected to the Israeli government. So this private intelligence company with huge ties to the Israeli intelligence community, it was founded by members of it, etc., with people who quite literally considered covert intelligence operations for the Israeli government, met allegedly the Slovenian opposition leader to record these videos.
Till, it's interesting, but I'm wondering, what is the Israeli interest here to do this?
Well, the current government is very pro-Palestine. If you look at the foreign affairs of this government, it's very similar to Spain. Like, Spain always gets the credit, but usually Slovenia does it first. So Slovenia recognized Palestine by a unanimous vote in the National Assembly. It did an arms embargo against Israel, which it might be the only country in this part of Europe, I'm not sure. Like, it did an arms embargo against Israel. And when it comes to the US attacks on Iran, Slovenia condemned the attacks of the US and Israel.
You even corrected me, Till. You corrected me because I got it wrong in my video.
You just colored Spain for it, while it was also...
my bad. It was also Slovenia. Yeah.
So the Israeli interest is that the government is very, very pro-Palestine.
Okay, so the conclusion of all of this, I mean, it's all allegedly, right? Is that the Israelis were to help SDS, the main opposition to Svoboda. They made, well, I'm not going to go through everything you said again, but they made basically Svoboda's leader look bad, right? That's kind of the conclusion.
Yes, that is the allegation.
Yeah, that's the allegation. And do you think that that's also the reason why SDS is now leading?
That is the reason why they are tied.
Okay.
SDS has been ahead of Svoboda for the past 3 years. Like, the freedom movement fell down, and SDS went up. If you look at the political polls I sent you before, the freedom movement has been losing for this entire time, while SDS was in first. Now, shockingly, this insane scandal did not trigger a collapse in SDS support. It actually essentially stayed as is.
Right.
But it triggered a surge in support for Svoboda, which made Svoboda tie SDS. At election debates, the climate was extremely tense. Like, usually you have them talking nicely, but on the one-on-one Janša-Golob debate, Golob looked at Janša and told him, I'm like removing the fancy words, you're not a good person, you don't want good for this country, and when people message me, they tell me one word, betrayal. So usually very civilized Slovenian politics quickly turned to two blocks. One block which says, well, Janša certainly did not rig anything with Israel because SDS obviously denies the allegations.
Obviously, yeah.
And the other block which says, look, the same operations happened in Hungary twice, and now somehow they happen in Slovenia when the jet lands and stuff like that. So currently we don't know for sure because the Slovenian intelligence agency is staying quiet. They don't want to say something and then be wrong, I guess, right before the election. There are leaks that they apparently have evidence that is correct, but they officially claim that they do not have that evidence. So take it as you will.
Okay, wow. Okay, so that obviously has impacted this election quite a bit. And my question still would be, Till, if we go back to now with that in mind, that scandal, and we look at the visual here, SDS is currently leading with 29 seats. Svoboda is second with 28 seats. And we have 78% of the vote counted. Again, we don't know the outcome yet, but what, I mean, maybe again, for the new viewers that just came in, what would be the most likely coalition you think that comes out of this government, out of this election, sorry?
It looks as if the right will not have a majority without Resnica.
And Resnica has basically been
and
quite...
And Resnica is just populist, anti-vax, anti-5G,
yeah,
pro-Russia, working with Russian spies, etc.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to see the more moderate right parties, and honestly, even Janša signing up to that. though who knows what might happen after the election.
So
it's pretty hard either way. If the left wants to govern, they will somehow need to unite everything from socialist to the center right, which is a bit hard. If the right wants to govern, they're going to have to work with Resnica. So it's difficult. If you go back to the image I sent, I know it's low quality now, but it still gives a pretty much better picture of what's going on. So the one after this. So the SDS is first in the not exit poll. This is the preliminary results, though it's probably updated since I made this, but you get the gist. What this looks like is SDS ahead by 1 seat, but they will have a very hard time making a government. And the left could try to govern with the moderate right, but this is, again, very hard to do, as like you would have to unite 5 parties in a government just to make it work.
Right. But I mean, that is still the most
of Svoboda working with the center-right, like both center-right parties, and maybe adding the Social Democrats to it. But it's difficult because of the 2-block politics thing, where the right will always follow Janša and the left will always follow whoever the face on the left is.
So the core problem then, Till, is that Svoboda, the SD, and basically all the left-wing forces together do not have a majority. So that means they have to work with someone from the center-right, right? So it could be, well, obviously not the SDS or Resnica, but one of the other two. So for example, the Democrats or the NSI, SLS, or Focus. Yes. And is that more? I mean, I know I'm trying to get an answer out of you, but is that more likely than the SDS going with Resnica, or is it more likely the SDS will go with Resnica and other right-wing forces? I mean, I'm just trying to think of what could happen.
With the Israel scandal, the center-right essentially said the left is talking about this just to distract from the last term. So I don't think the center-right are really fans of Golob in any way. The Democrats try to hold ambiguity. I would personally say just because they wanted to attract Golob voters without scaring them off for Janša. Like literally, when I speak with people about Slovenian politics, people outside of Slovenia and in Slovenia, what I hear is, I like from people on the right, I mean, they say that I like the positions of, let's say, SDS, but they don't like Janša. Or maybe they like the Democrats, or maybe they like the center-right. But if you vote for the center-right, you're enabling a new Janša government. So what the Democrats probably are trying to do is say, oh, no, we are not going to enable a Janša government. We're just winning on our own.
Right. Till, I'm going to go to the chat, and there's 2 questions that we will ask on Slovenia before we move on. So the first one here is, and this is Stalikus1. He said, I just joined. So are these election results for Slovenia a yay or a nay for pro-EU parties in the elections? So basically, if I just translate that, is this good news for Europe, what's happened, or bad news?
It's most definitely bad news. Because the Social Democrats are the most pro-EU party, and they're probably going from 8 seats to 6. And Svoboda, which would be the second most pro-EU party, is going from 41 to 28, 29, something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
So while all of the parties except Resnica are theoretically pro-EU, Janša's pro-EU style is also very pro-Orban, and he has very good ties with Orban. It might be worth noting that if Janša wants to be prime minister, he will need the Democrats. And the Democrats are led by a former foreign minister under Janša, who isn't Janša tier. So if that person becomes foreign minister again, Andrzej Logar, then maybe it might not be all that bad. And SDS is theoretically still pro-EU. They're just not in favor of further integration. They'd kind of like to stay where it's now.
We have another question for you, Ari. So here from Diamond V1LX, question for Ari. If the center to center-right parties actually side with Swoboda, do they then risk losing their support?
I don't really think so, because, I mean, it's hard because of the bloc politics. So all the media is either left media or right media, and everyone is going to watch their side. So maybe right media won't be happy if they work with Swoboda, but alternatively, if the right can prove that they can govern without Janša, maybe that will tell voters, oh, I can vote for you without risking a fourth non-consecutive term by Janša.
Right.
So I guess I could see it kind of either way, but regardless, Swoboda is like, Slovenia is always governed by the left. Like 3/4 of the time, 2/3 has the left government. This means that the left has kind of done everything. Slovenia is the second most economically equal country on earth. There isn't all that much redistribution of wealth you can do. And therefore, there isn't all that much they will do. Slovenia got rich under socialism of Yugoslavia. And some say it's the only country that got rich under socialism. So the left doesn't have all that much to do. And the right isn't exactly saying, let's ban all of these programs. They're just saying, let's do some more competitiveness and stuff like that, which I guess Swoboda is also trying, but like there's modest economic growth. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's modestly good, I guess.
Another question from Luca KLP. Are NSI, SLS, and Focus a single entity, or could they split and just NSI work with Swoboda? Sorry.
The center-right alliance are 3 separate parties who are running under a joint list. It's not exactly clear how many seats who will get, because Slovenian politics has a very complicated system. Like, in the end, the final results are exactly proportional, but they are divided through a complex calculation and stuff across constituencies. So you have both constituencies and proportional representation. It's a mess that isn't worth describing. But in the end, it's not clear who will get the luck from the calculation to get the seats. But I don't think they would split apart. They were kind of all doing terrible before they joined, because each of them got like 2-3%, which would be below the 4% threshold. Yet now they got in with 9 seats, which is actually above the polls. They had like 6 in the polls, I think. Well, depending on the poll.
Quick update.
If you look back at Politico, just to scare the audience.
One second. I need to get the link again.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
Okay, so if you press all, you can see how chaotic elections usually are. Like every election sees the landslide for the new left party. So Swoboda surviving by this would, in their own terms, be a massive success. So Swoboda can ride high on their survival, but it's still looking like a right majority. Also, another thing, usually the right doesn't win. When Janša gets into office, it's because the left is too fragmented and a left party decides to govern with Janša. So the right winning an outright majority is very unheard of.
I mean, it is interesting. I'm just reading the chat again. With 85% counted now, Swoboda is back on top with 29 seats. They're leading again with 0.07%. So very, very close.
I mean, winning doesn't really matter because the president gives the mandate to whomever she wants.
Okay,
what matters is if the left or right joint alliance kind of thing wins. Like if the united left wins, the left is definitely forming a government. I don't see how the incumbent government wouldn't stick around. But if the right wins, which is pretty certain, I'd say now, it's up in the air. Let me make the diagram for the new one.
Yeah, because Till, the tradition in Germany is quite, German politics is that the biggest party after the federal election they normally get like, I don't think it's like actually in the constitution, but it's customary that they get the first try at forming a coalition, right? It's up to them to try and first form one, and only if they can't will it like go down to the next biggest party. Is that different in Slovenia? Can everyone just go around and try and create their coalitions, and then the biggest one wins?
Up until Borut Pahor was president like 10 years ago, all the president said, I will give the mandate to whoever is the largest party.
Fair enough.
But Pahor changed the rules and said, I will give the mandate to whoever looks likeliest to form the government. That is how he gave the mandate to a party with 14 seats, while SDS had almost 30, and then the 14-seat party formed one of the governments.
Crazy.
So, yes, because the left was very fragmented. Like, Svoboda uniting the left is really something that has to be mentioned. On the 2018 to 2022 parliament, there were like 4 center-to-center left parties. You could even say like 5. And literally 3 or 4 of them, depending on how you count it, had the leader's name in the party name.
Right. Works a bit different there and here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Till, we're kind of through. Is there anything last things you want to say about Slovenia that you haven't mentioned that we need to be mentioning now before we move on to the final phase of the live stream?
So are there any more questions?
I'm having a look. There's no tags. I'll have a look at the one that's not tagged us. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a question by Richard Major 9134. I have to ask again, how can an EPP politician be something like Orban? I know Fidesz was in EPP, but they are furthest from it now.
Mm-hmm.
The SDS is in the EPP, but they considered defecting to the PFE when the party was founded. So that gives you a bit of an idea. The SND group in the European Parliament has like a bunch of Instagram posts where they called on the EPP to throw out the SDS, and the EPP just doesn't. So SDS stays in it, but when it comes to votes on Mercosur, for example, the SDS votes against. So I would really question what exactly they're after by having the SDS in there, because this is kind of Orban vibes. It is literally allegedly working with Israeli agents. Like, I really wonder what the EPP is thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Orban was also eventually thrown out of the EPP, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, look how much it took.
Yeah, it took a lot.
And Janša has been leading his party for 30 years.
Yeah.
If it hasn't happened until now, then I kind of doubt that it's going to change.
Yeah. Ari, or Till even, last question. How hard will Slovenia support Ukraine after the election?
I mean, the thing is, the left is very pacifist. So if you have the left win, like, current military spending has risen to a new high of 1.6%. And this is from a high of 1.3%. Svoboda wants to increase military spending, and so does SDS. But the further left parties are extremely pacifist. They even want Levica even wants to leave NATO, and there was a huge almost government collapse thing when the 5% NATO target was agreed to. So when it comes to military aid to Ukraine, the government, if it stays in office, is not going to do all that much. When it comes to political support, they're going to fly on into infinity supporting Ukraine. They did the same thing as the government. Slovenia was elected to the United Nations Security Council under the current government, and they were very thrilled on all the stuff they tried to pull. But of course, Russia vetoes everything. So the current government is very pro-Ukraine, but if you put the right into office, then it's a bit less clear. Like, I would still say they will be supportive of Ukraine. I think they would still support the loan, though I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what they've said on it, but I think they would support it. But they wouldn't really care, in my opinion.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, we don't want another Orban-like country in the European Union, right?
I don't think that Janša is going to veto everything.
Okay.
That I don't believe. But, like, the risk is there. And if Janša is the Robert Fico type of sometimes doing it, it's still a big issue.
Yeah. Till, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have an expert on, because I know one thing, Paul and myself would not have been able to talk about Slovenia like you have. And I've been very quiet and listening because, like I said, I don't know a lot about it. And thank you for sharing everything. And I'll be in touch to create a video on this in the future. So thanks, everyone. Oh, and very important, Till, talk a bit about Discord, why people should join it.
Okay, so we have 2 Discord servers. The main server is about talking about normal politics. So you would talk about the recent news about EMS videos, chat with people with similar interests. And then we have a second server known as Europa, in which you can roleplay as a politician. Most of my time on Discord is spent on managing that one. And in it, you can create political parties, run in elections, write laws, become a journalist, whatever interests you, essentially. That would be like the short summary of the Discord.
Links are in the description. And thank you, Till, for joining us and for managing Discord like that. And I'll get Paul back in now. So thanks, man.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right. So let's have a look if this worked. Paul, are you back? I think I can see you. Hey! I can't hear you, though.
Hello.
Hello, Paul. You're back.
My name is still on the live stream, but it's fine. I hope people will recognize me at least.
You're still called Till. I'm going to change that. No worries. 1 second. So, man, I learned a lot about Slovenian politics. What about you?
That was fascinating. I was looking at the chat, looking at all your questions. Very interesting questions. I hope I was able to get as many of them through as possible. But very interesting. I know nothing about Slovenian politics, so I learned a lot tonight.
Man, it was actually embarrassing because I couldn't challenge anything because I don't know anything about it, right? But it was not good news for Europe, though, that's for sure. Not very positive kind of parties for Europe.
Yeah, that's true.
Paul, we're not going to do much longer, but is there an update in France? Is there anything else we need to talk about for France?
We have some updated results. I don't know if you still have the French map up on your side, but there's some updates from Paris. It looks like the left is losing votes by the minute. They were up, I don't know if you remember, they were at 56% when the results first came out, or 54%. They're now down to 51%. And why does this matter? It's because of this premium on the seats. If you remember what I said, if you have a certain number of seats, if you go past 50%, you get an extra number of seats. But if you don't get that 50%, then you don't get that extra number of seats. So passing that 50% benchmark is really, really important, even if Grégoire will be the next mayor.
I'm really messing around with this website. 1 second. It's really hard here. Paris. Oh, I'm trying to hit Paris.
On the top right, you've got the Paris map.
I got it. I got it. Okay, so I can't see a map.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh.
1 second, I need to zoom out. There we go.
So not very good news for Grégoire, but indeed he's he's still in the lead. I think what's really important, what's really interesting about this is how much the far left has not decided to do any tactical voting, right? They've gone straight again for the far left in the second round instead of voting for Grégoire, which says a lot about the upcoming elections. The far left seems to vote a lot less tactically than they usually do. I don't know if you remember, but all along in French politics, you've got these parties, the center, who might be against the far right, and then the left and the far left will vote for the center to prevent the far right from gaining any ground. And it seems like in this case, they were not willing to vote for Emmanuel Grégoire to make sure that he passes that 50% mark. So maybe he will be punished electorally throughout the night. We're not sure yet.
Crazy. But I mean, I'm going to try to take some positives about this, right? I mean, the France Unbowed is at 8.2%. So that's pretty bad for them, no?
Well, it's pretty much what they would make in Paris, considering their first round they're at 10%. So it seems like only 2% decided to switch.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we still have, the left is still going to win Paris. Any other cities we need to talk about which are quite interesting?
You got some final results in Marseille, but it's the same that we talked about before. I just want to shout out Bayrou. You know Bayrou Lambertus. He's very pro-EU. He has lost re-election, it seems, in the city of Po to the socialist candidate. That's on the bottom left of the screen. Pyrénées-Atlantique. Yep, you were hovering over it. A bit more to the left. A bit more. Yeah, there you go. And city of Po right there. It seems like he has lost re-election to the left wing. Oh, right there. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Francois Bayrou has lost re-election. This was a long time coming, but this is just another. If there's one thing to take out from this election night, is that the center has been railed. It is not a good night for the center. It's a fantastic night for, well, it's a good night for the far right, and it's a pretty good night for the left.
Well, I mean, I think if I look at this as an outsider, it really just shows what the next election is going to be about, right? The next presidential election in France is not going to be, if you ask me as an outsider, between the center, left, and right, or the center and the right, like it used to be for the last two elections. It looks like it's going to be the left against the right. Would that be? Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be that. It seems like it's going to be the left versus the right, and I don't think the center will be able to make it unless there's a miracle or some kind of candidate that comes out of nowhere.
Right. We have a question in the chat, Paul, before we close the French elections, which is a question for Paul from Stella. Do you think the vote by naturalized foreigners and French citizens with foreign parents has influenced this vote in any way? Difficult one.
Difficult one. Look, I mean, it certainly... Look, I mean, it certainly helped the left. It's unavoidable that, you know, I think the far right parties have shot themselves in the foot in being so supportive of quite racist policies in France, especially for municipal elections where non-citizens are allowed to vote, mostly European ones, though. But I would say the effect is not absolutely huge. I mean, not everyone. I know from personal experience, I was actually counting votes in some of the counties, some of the cities last week, and not that many Europeans and non-French people come to vote in these elections. So I don't think it makes a huge difference, but certainly it will have some sort of effect. But not the one that some of the election deniers will say of that, oh, there's a wave of left-wing voters because of immigration. I think that's completely out of touch, but it does help to a certain degree.
Paul, if there's nothing else in France, I think we should go back to Germany and see what the hell's going on there, because there's some small changes I think are cool to talk about. So let's do that right now. And here we go. Boom, boom, boom. I need to scroll down. Here. So these are now the Hochrechnung. So that means the most actual results for Germany. So as you know, or if you stuck with us for like 2 hours since the German election, Germany voted for their state called Rheinland-Pfalz, which is important because it says a lot about how much and how well accepted the federal level at the moment is. And these are the results right here on the screen. So quick update for everyone. The SPD lost a lot. They lost almost 10% and moved down to 25.9%. CDU gained about 2 to 3% to 31%, so being the winners of this election night. Greens are at 8%. The AFD gained like 10%, all the way up to 19.5%. But they weren't 20% before, Paul. So, hey, 0.5% gone, which is good, Then we have the FDP, which is at 2.1%, the Freie Wähler 4.2%, and the Link at 4.4%. So some small updates there, but I can tell you one thing, this is over. The CDU obviously won this, and the SPD had probably the worst night, and the AFD probably the best one. That's the update there. But I have something else, which is interesting. There's a really cool chart here. Let me, because this is what you were asking about before, Paul. Here it shows you where SPD voters went, which I think is very interesting. So, as mentioned before, the SPD was the big loser of the night, and they lost most of their votes to the... I mean, how is this possible? A center-left party lost a lot, and most of these voters went to center-right or to far-right parties. Literally, almost 120,000 left went there. That's crazy, no?
That is crazy, and I'm just it's crazy that they went to the AFD. Yeah, I don't know what to say. That is just insane. I almost want to ask: do you think they're moving to the CDU to punish the SPD for being a bad coalition partner? Is that maybe possible?
I mean, I don't think CDU is being a great coalition partner either, by the way. I think both their issues, but yeah, I think. I just think it goes back to the story I explained at the start. You know, like SPD voters just being so frustrated that they're not being represented by the usual Workers' Party, which was the SPD, and they're now going for a revolt vote, like, oh, I'll go for the AfD, or a one chaos vote, or they're convinced by AfD's policies, which the AfD also tries to really play into this whole helping the workers and supporting Germany's workers, role, but then from the right side. So I think that might be a reason. But the CDU is one that surprised me. That's quite surprising.
That is surprising. So I guess if we look at the CDU voters, maybe quite a few went to the AfD, and then they recuperated their losses from the SPD. Is that a possibility?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah.
For a while now.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think if there's any last questions in the chat, please tag us, because I think we are done for the night. The Munich election results. Oh yeah, I might as well cover that. So thank you for the question, because I live in Munich. So the last time I checked, well, let me explain what happened. So we also had 2 rounds in Munich for the elections, and I actually got to vote as a Dutch guy here in Munich, which is great. It was also for the mayor of Munich, and there was a second round. In the second round, what was left standing was the SPD candidate Dietrich Reiter, and I think it was Dietrich anyway, and against the Greens, someone called Krause. God, what was his first name again? Oh, I should know that. But anyway, against Krause and the Greens against SPD. And when I last looked, the Greens was winning by quite a margin, which is crazy. And I think he did win. Let me check.
Very nice. The Greens that are pretty pro-EU, I guess. Are they part of the Green Party? I guess they are in the EU as well.
Yeah, the Greens are not normally very, very positive about the EU, right? Very much pro-integration. The Greens still ahead. So, yeah. And to be honest, I quite like it. I'm quite happy the Greens are winning in Munich, because, the Bavaria is known as a very conservative state. And Munich, of course, isn't as conservative, way more liberal, because it's a big city, but not very liberal. And having a green mayor of Munich, like a conservative city, really, if you look at the grand scheme of things in Germany, is quite exciting. I'm quite happy about that. I'm not gonna lie. Having a young guy in charge is quite cool. Let's see what he does.
I'll be honest. I really like the Greens on local politics. I know in France they're a bit more controversial because they're not very pro-EU, but at least in local politics, man, what they've done to Paris is fantastic. So many nice green parks everywhere, less cars.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I really like it. Of course, we need to find the money to pay for these things, which is an issue in and of itself. But I really like what they've done with the city, and I really like the Greens for local politics. Yeah,
I think they're great for here. This is the guy, by the way. He's probably going to be the mayor of Munich, and he's also gay, by the way. Here, look at that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which I think is great. A conservative place like Munich is great to have someone like that in charge. Which
is that popular, or is that current in Germany, that gay people are elected for office, or not really?
I mean, it's all accepted, right? And it's all fine. But I think there's definitely still a voter out there that finds such liberal points. I don't know. How should I say it? Not votable. My God, bad English. I'm getting a bit tired. But yeah, so I'm quite happy with that result.
It's the same in France. There's a lot of people. Actually, the centrist party has quite a lot of gay people inside of them, and it's put off a lot of right-wing voters from the center, I think.
Yeah, I love this comment here, by the way, from Pegasus Burglar. Markus Söder is probably going full crash out right now. Yes, you're right. So Markus Söder is the minister president of Bavaria, and he's very conservative from the CSU party. He's not going to be happy with a green mayor of Munich because he hates the Greens. Like Markus Söder hates the Greens so much.
My God. All right. Yeah. Well, that's a bad night for him. But I don't know how to think about Markus Söder. I think he's very pro independence of
he's a difficult guy, man. He's a difficult guy. He's like I told you last time, statements like Germany needs Bavaria, but Bavaria doesn't need Germany. That comes out of his mouth. And I just don't this separatist stuff, even though he doesn't want it, but even just like touching upon it, I'm not a big fan of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, just separatist ideals for me don't make much sense. I understand why people would want them, but we need more integration with European allies, and so I don't really see how separation from a state is going to fix any problems that we have at all. We have a statement here from Loan David Pickorlang, who says, "We've been streaming for 2.5 hours. We have." Thank you for being there the whole time. You've been there from the very start. Thank you for everyone who's been there from the very start.
Yeah, no, seriously, guys, anyone that stayed here for 2.5 hours to listen to us yap around all of these political elections, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And to finalize, to finish off, a bit of marketing as always. Do join us on Patreon or become a member of the channel. It keeps us going, right? It's literally a very, very important revenue stream for us. So we'd really appreciate that. And if not, then of course, subscribing and watching us is also great. So thank you very much. And that's called a night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. One last shout out. Please don't forget about the Spotify. It's EU Made Simple on Spotify. We need more followers on there to kind of grow. I'm not sure how the algorithm works, to be honest, but it's not. I don't think it's a very natural growth. So please make sure to follow us there if you want to keep up to date with any of the live streams that you may miss, and to just help us grow in that area. We'd really appreciate it to just try and get to more viewers in the podcast sector.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.